Hello and welcome, Calling All Heroes family.
It's the end of the road.
Now, a rotation. Unlucky, going in the back, attempting to give some mobility to the Orisa, who needs that speed to come in close. The Terra Surge pulling them into the center, getting a two-piece with a Javelin into the wall. And that's going to be Exo being able to eliminate the remaining Q.
Happens there. Valentine goes super aggressive, finds Velvet. Oh my god, that might be a huge pickoff for Mari, but Mari will get traded out in a little bit too far away from support, sadly. So it was a great opening pick, but the overextension and like kind of, they were a little bit caught out in this situation, right, with Mari going that deep.
And still can't dislodge Timeless Ethereal from this high ground. They're gonna need the barrage to do it.
And they're not even gonna use the cage fight as well. It's just pure raw damage and aim from Zoe exploding up in Timeless Ethereal's face.
Yeah, trying to make sure that Timeless Ethereal don't show up at their spawn door, but knock knock, they're already here. They got the angle on the high ground though. Will this be enough for Wisp to find a body?
Yeah, there you go! Well, okay, I'm
two.
sorry! Wisp saw a pixel! Oh, Mari needs some serious help from AJMR and Wicca, but it's AJMR instead, and needs that assistance! What a shot! Wisp, what has gotten into you? We've seen a lot of these rosters kind of shift and grow along the way.
Every single game is going to be a dogfight.
You know, the whole circuits led up to this.
And we will see you at the championships.
Hello and welcome once again, Calling All Heroes family. It's so good to have you all here for the culmination of another year's worth of competition. This is the Calling All Heroes 2024-2025 championships. My name is CB. I'm joined alongside Leg Day, and what might be the final chapter for some are stories yet to be written for others, and I cannot wait to get into it with you and see what stories we have to unfold here today.
Yeah, here at the Calling All Heroes Championship, we're not just crafting stories, but we're building them together towards a legend, because we need to crown a champion at the end of this. And so much has come towards this particular event. All of these teams have been working so hard. They have to persevere through multiple metas, ups and downs, and roster shakeups in order to make their mark on Calling All Heroes.
And I mean, it's for some of them, it's been a really long road, like you said, through so many metas, and you can even have a look at the calendar. Look, it's how far we came, like way back in May when we kicked off Major 1 just right after DreamHack Dallas, all the way through all of those majors and minors up to LCQ, all the way up to Champs, which is, we're here now, today, this weekend. These next 4 days is going to be your championship tournament, and it's going to be an interesting one. We've got a lot more talent brought to the table this time around, a lot more teams, a lot more games to play. So those of you who are already in chat talking about how you're 0% to those drops, I mean, you got plenty of time to make up the deficit there.
Yeah, plenty of time to earn all of our incentives, because we've got 4 days of Overwatch action for all of you. It's going to be a long run through our championships, but it's going to be double elimination, so these teams have plenty of staying power. If they falter once, if they fumble, there's still a chance to bring it back. If you can dig deep, find that grit, find that perseverance that really makes a champion, and exploit it.
It's a little bit of a marathon for some of these teams because we got a 14-team bracket that we'll get to in a little bit, but at the finish line waiting for them is quite the hefty prize. We do have some additional prizing provided by Blacklight as well, but let's have a quick look at what we actually do have for the winning team. That is a nice whopping 10 grand there for first place. No more circuit points on the table, by the way, because those are now useless. It's all about the cash money now.
Yeah, we aren't distributing circuit points anymore. It's time to start getting some bread, and the bread is here to be gotten. What a big prize pool to be handing out here at Calling All Heroes Championships. And as you said, Blacklight is giving us some additional prizing as well, which is absolutely lovely. You can have a look at all of the excellent series of chairs that are going to be sent out by Blacklight. The Kraken Pro gaming chairs in particular are going to be going to our Challengers Series champions. Each of them is going to be receiving a Kraken Pro gaming chair.
It's quite the thrones to be seated upon for a new monarchy that will reign. If there's one thing I know about gamers is that they like to sit down. So yeah, a great reward for a team for a year's worth of hard work, a year's worth of perseverance, and one weekend's worth of making it all worth it to the very end, tooth and nail. I cannot wait. But that is what the players are playing for. I want to talk about what all you guys in the chat are currently here for, because we know what you guys are here for. It's to support Calling All Heroes, but it's also to get yourself some sick drops. There's that Monarch Venture once again. I mean, Toph, we talked a little bit about it. Like, the Toph skin kind of came and dethroned the Venture skin, but maybe you're kind of bored of having, like, that one. You want to go to something a little bit more non-binary. You go with the Monarch Venture, and as well as some royalty in terms of a nameplate, sprays, and that Pachimari player icon to go along with it.
Wow, they did not need to go this hard on the drops. My goodness, that name card might be a permanent fixture for me. I love purple and gold. It's a fantastic scheme. And you know that Bad Pachimari is going to be in the chat to get that icon. Like, that's definitely very Bad Pachimari pilled. The crown, some might say well-deserved. Some might say that that's a stinky crown for bad predictions. But
yeah, the king of bad predictions, perhaps. I mean, if, Bad Pachimari, if you're in the chat, shout out. But also, don't predict anything. Just keep quiet and enjoy the show. Collect the drops. Maybe chime in every now and then, talk about which teams are your favorite, but never, guess that something is going to happen. I mean...
Yeah, powers of prediction, they must be used for good by keeping your mouth shut in this case. But if you in chat have your own predictions, feel free to share them, because I don't know if you have the same spooky voodoo powers that Bad Pachimari does. But while Bad Pachimari should be predicting plays, I can pretty accurately predict our map pool coming into this. It's going to be fairly fixed, and that means you can move between some fairly... It really consolidates practice for these teams as well, making sure that your scrim time is more valuable. We're going to be moving across these maps in particular.
Yeah, and as a little aside, some of these maps are actually coalesced into one singular thing, one singular bracket. Basically, if you pick Hybrid, you can no longer pick Flashpoint. Those are collected in one singular column. And as such, when we went through LCQ this past weekend, everyone picked Suravasa, which I thought was really weird. I thought we would see a lot more Blizzard World. But, people avoid Numbani like the plague. Fun fact, if you don't know, Numbani is Swahili for bad map. Eichenwald, I'm a huge fan of Eichenwald. I'm sad I haven't seen that scrimmed or played a lot. A lot of teams just kind of go for Suravasa. So you might actually see a whole tournament where you don't see Flashpoint, but I'm a big fan of the Control map pool. The Escort map pool is also very, very interesting, I feel.
Yeah, both Dorado and Havana can really play host, of course, to things like the Widowmaker. We are playing on live, by the way, so the Widowmaker hotfix to the projectile size changes is going to be prevalent here. Of course, all of our maps have kind of bowed and bent to our new Scottish Overlord. Like, previously, maybe these were all about the Winston, trying to claim that high ground, move between these various verticalities, and apply pressure to those who like to sit up on high ground and plink away for free. But now there's a new Leaper in town. He's got a Scottish accent, he's got a big blade, and he's seen some significant play over the course of our LCQ.
Yeah, if you haven't been paying too much attention to the Overwatch esports world lately, let me rudely awaken you to the new, like you said, Scottish Overlord. Starting in Soup Cup in Korea, we started to see Hazard come into the fold. It's now made its way to North America. We saw a lot of him throughout the LCQ weekend, and this is probably going to be our first real glimpse of a full-on tournament where I expect most, if not every team, is going to be trying to make this guy work. There's going to be a couple of off-meta picks where people might try and play, like, Wrecking Ball if that's their specialty, or try to play into a certain team's strength, but the rule is going to be Hazard. And something that I want to kind of highlight about this meta in particular, aside from the playmaking ability and the assassination ability of Hazard himself, is that we're transitioning from a Mauga meta, where it was traditionally very macro favored, where a lot of these fights were dictated based on who had the orbital ray from the Juno, who had the cage fight, and who got the better exchange out of those trades. We're no longer in that world. It is now very micro-dominated, where you're going to be looking to the DPS and also to the Hazard to be making individual plays, and that's going to be a huge adjustment for some of these teams.
Yeah, it might be a real adjustment to how the comm structure works in particular, but also, as I mentioned earlier, we are playing on the hotfix, so Hazard is going to be a little bit nerfed compared to the previous outings, a little bit less time on that block, and damage reduction as well. So maybe some Hazards who are used to playing on the classic Hazard are going to be facing a little bit more risk on their deeper plays because they won't be able to mitigate as much incoming damage.
Yeah, that spike guard was kind of ridiculous before. He had like
Wild.
75% damage reduction and damage and insane coverage, and it was on a resource meter. They've now dropped that down a little bit and, you know, reduced its duration, so he's a little bit more punishable, but still not enough so to knock him out of the meta. And let's talk a little bit about that in the future. Right now, let's have a quick look at our bracket. There's a lot to unpack here. Our number 1 and number 2 seeds, Nightmare Eclipse and Valentine, getting some buys into that second round automatically. Because of that, our LCQ teams, Timeless Aurora and Moth Genesis, don't have to face them. Yippee! But they do have to face Exo Azathoth and Queen's Gambit, respectively, which are the next worst things for them. So best of luck to our newcomers from the LCQ. Hope you can put up a good showing and maybe make your way along to what was once fated for you. There's also a lot of other teams that I do kind of want to highlight. I'm a little sad we might not get to see Aw Yas in this one, because I suspect they could actually be really, really good in this meta, because again, very micro favored, and they have a style that's a little bit off the beaten path. But today, we're gonna kick things off with that matchup that you see up at the top, Puppy Girl Posse versus who is Nado Kato.
Perhaps here at the championships, we will finally find out who Nado Kato is, or Wink for short, which might be easier when it comes to our casting syllable economy. Puppy Girl Posse, definitely going to be a team to watch out for as well. Both of these teams, I believe Puppy Girl Posse has a little bit of a history to them as well when it comes to going through multiple rounds of Calling All Heroes. Of course, qualifying for the championships, you need to have some significant circuit points to get here. And it seems who's going to adjust best to the changes that have come forth when it comes to both Hazard and the overall vibe of how Overwatch works in a competitive setting, going from, as you said, macro to micro.
Yeah, and these are, you know, at the top of the show, I said, you know, it's going to be the final chapters for some and some stories yet to be written. These are two of those teams that still have some stories that have yet to be written, because Puppy Girl Posse, like you said, they've been around for a little bit. They've accumulated a fair bit of circuit points. They're coming in as the 8th seed, but they also haven't really made too much of a lasting impact thus yet, and this is their opportunity to do that. It's the first time we're actually getting them this far into a tournament cycle, this far, getting them on a broadcast. We actually get to see what they are made of. Let's bring up the roster graphic and we can talk a little bit about who we've got here. Kaisicle, Nymphia, Declan. These are some of these names that have been around the scene for a very long time. People who have been kind of floating around, but this is their first time making it this far as a collective.
Yeah, like when you see new sort of 5 stacks come together, as it were, like there's always going to be the questions of synergy, of efficiency and communication, and among many other things, trust. When it comes to how you handle your engagements. Scrim time, of course, helps with that, but when you find teams that truly trust each other's both talent on their particular roles and their decision-making processes, that's when you see more wild plays come out that actually manage to get resources, because you know, the old saying, apes together strong, sometimes a plan can be made effective simply by everyone going, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be wrong together, and, you know, you might come around to being correct. But on the other side, we have Wink, who is Nado Kato, and while she might still be trying to find herself, it's time for her to show us who she actually is. We saw a little bit of this team in Major 3, and there was some impressive plays coming out from this DPS line. I also want to highlight Spinor, who is transitioning from tank over to a DPS. She's going to be mostly keeping up the flex DPS end of things, so the Genji, and pretty much that, unless they go off beat and play like a Pharah or a Venture for any reason. Probably going to be mostly on the Genji. This DPS duo in this meta, though, it's like a lot of pressure is going to be on them to kind of establish them and set themselves apart from the rest of the pack.
So as far as I'm aware, this Eevee is the same Eevee who is also the head coach of Puppy Girl?
Yeah. According to the graphics, yeah.
So Eevee might have some insight here into Puppy Girl Posse's potential strategies. Who knows? Maybe that can be leveraged, but maybe Puppy Girl Posse will have more of a mechanical outplay of a Wink.
I think for that reason, I'm gonna predict a who is Nado Kato 3-0, but with some chicanery, some like misinformation fed to Puppy Girl Posse. Like, you know what will really catch us off guard? You should try and come out with like Moira, Torbjorn, Symmetra. We'll never see that coming, I bet.
Going into championships, it's all about Roadhog, guys.
Yeah, I've been watching the Korean VODs. It's weird. They're all about the Roadhog with like Mercy Pocket. It works, trust.
What we really need is the additional level of psyops here at Calling All Heroes. Some true espionage tier plays to
Yeah, I'm often
really put the
complaining.
je ne sais quoi.
I'm often complaining there's not enough gaslighting that goes on in Overwatch esports. I think that's what the scene really needs, that it can take us to, you know, take us to the next level. Let's get some psyops, some gaslighting, a little bit of like insider trading between the teams. Let's do it. I think that's more spicy.
Oh, the spice is going to be delivered. Here we are, match number 1, map number 1 of the Calling All Heroes Championships. Puppy Girl Posse going up against Who Is Nadokado. We've got to find out who they are one day, CB.
I think that day might be today, and if not today, well, it's a loser's bracket, so it's still tomorrow, but I don't think you're going to be have all that many more days after that. We're hitting a quick pause right now. Don't actually even get to see the hero picks just yet. I was really looking forward to hearing that first little bit of Scottish that of that Dolgan me that I'm so used to hearing from Connor's voice over and over again.
I figured that maybe there was a pause here so they could have their anime revelation, seeing Evie on the other team. Coach? It was me the whole time.
Was it you? It was me, Austin. It was me all along.
Falls off the mat. They didn't know. I'm the only one who knows who Nadokado is.
And I'll never tell you.
You can't make me tell.
All right. Well, I do kind of think that the first sub map, at least it was looking like it was going to be Control Center. But something I do kind of want to talk about with Lijiang Tower is, as we're in this Hazard meta, unless there has been a fair amount of gaslighting from Eevee, what we typically would see is, you know, on a lot of these maps, we will definitely be seeing Hazard, Juno, or not Juno, Hazard, Kiriko, Lucio, and then the DPS kind of, you know, vary around. You're going to see a lot of Sojourn and a lot of Genji, but on maps like Gardens and Night Market, you can tend to see some of the Sojourns deviate over towards a Tracer. Sometimes you might see a Pharah come out. That's where things kind of change. Overall, the only kind of odd thing I'm seeing so far is on Wink's side is that Ana in the backline.
Yeah, the Ana could be a great way to try and shut down a Hazard usually, who doesn't really have much in the way of defense against a Barda Grenade, but, well, Puppy Girl Posse, for a reason that you do play the Kiriko in one way with the with the Hazard, is to try and shut down that weakness to the Barda Grenade. With the Cleanse, still, it's notable that the Suzu has twice as long a cooldown as the Barda Grenade, so you might be looking at Who Is Nadokado trying to take the fight in sort of like 2 phases.
Yeah, and in these kind of like micro-heavy metas, the Suzu is going to be a really important cooldown. Veli going to hold on to it. Nekla getting absolutely melted down. Maybe we needed that Suzu a second earlier. But using the Biotic Grenade to try to force it early is going to very much so limit the Kiriko's playmaking potential. So it's like 2 things that you have to watch out for.
Yes, absolutely right. Psychic always going down. And remember that if Veli is having to save that Barda Grenade to try and save Declan from incoming antis, then maybe it's not going to be as useful for just trying to save Declan from burst damage. And once that guard is gone, you could be in a very vulnerable position. For now, Nadokado looking to make everyone know exactly who they are, playing around the outside.
Going in with a couple of right clicks. Nymphia forced to slide out. That's her Sojourn already gone. This is Winks going in.
Crumb down. Could be a big opening here from the side of Puppy Girl Posse. Slice not delivered, but the dice could be forthcoming. Out goes the wall. Just putting on that pressure onto a point, heading towards the back line. Eyes here on the Ana, but first Spinal is going to be the one to go down. Icicle grabs that. And it seems like it's going to be a flip of the point.
And this is kind of where I'm going to be starting to question the Ana pick a little bit more. When Wink had control of the point, there you have, you know, Puppy Girl Posse walking through that choke point. That's a great time to set it for a big grenade. But you're not really going to find that when you're the one who's trying to come through the choke. Unfortunately, they're able to get through quite easily. Puppy Girl Posse kind of give that up for free. Nearly take out Crumb again, though. You can't be losing your Lucio here. That sound barrier is going to be a very important cooldown.
Yeah, Crumb might be everything. In goes the Barda Grenade. It's a great delivery. Icicle going to be falling off the back of this aggression, just creating that deficit in healing. Lucio caught in the corner. Spike Guard attempting to make something work, but you don't want to exit onto the outside in the face of a frog, as it's far too dangerous.
All right, this feels very back and forth so far, but Nadokado is starting to build up to some pretty impressive ultimates, a pretty impressive ultimate economy here. Hazard is a phenomenal nano target, by the way. I imagine that's where it's going to go, is straight up onto Eevee, and yep, there we go. Eevee's just going straight in.
Walled off behind her, and attempt to try and slow down this nano play. It's going to be reinforced here by Vasama, slicing through the sidekick. That's going to make Batman mad.
well, we take those kills, we take that percentage, and then we just back up. Puppy Girl Posse thankfully don't invest more than their overclock of their own, which is a big playmaking ultimate, but overall not going to be as impactful as the support ultimates or wall straight into your face.
There's maybe a world where the Kitsune Rush can be blocked by a wall as well if the reactions are fast enough here from Eevee. Out goes for Spike Rain. Rooting multiple players, and they're going to be caught out here by Spinor, turning it around with their own overclock. Veli trying to play within the Kitsune Rush. This is very aggressive. Wants the shot. Nymphia gets the first one. Look at all those assists by our powers combined. The Avengers are simple to take out Spinor and Nadokado. But Eevee might still think that it's winnable here, going up against their own team. They know exactly how these fights work. Falling low is the Genji. Moving on to Velucio, but he needs to decide on a target. They just have to back off for a moment.
And this is totally fine if you're Who is Nadokado because you're able to get yourself up to 99. Kaizu goes in, assassinates Navalia, but I think that might be enough. Even if you flip it though, again, you got it to 99. Like, job is done for Nadokado. You were sitting pretty from here on out. You just got to win one more fight, get control of the point. You're going to have the downpour to do it and a nano boost. I think, like, you know, once you get through this choke point, which a lot of the members of the team already are, just put the nano onto Eevee, let them just jump right in with that nano boost, pop the downpour. If you get even one kill off of it, it is done. A lot of weight is going to be on Veli Suzu here.
Small window here with no Suzu available. Oh, Nadokado. She's already got two. Oh, that's an unfortunate TP. Welcome to the show, says Eevee. I'll be seeing you later. You still have so much to learn, young Padawan. Who is Nadokado starting off 99 to 54?
I'm glad I called out the exact play that they ended up doing, but I'm also glad that it wasn't even necessary because Nadokado went in and killed 2 before you even saw the nano go onto Eevee. Just one of these things that is going to make a huge difference. Like, again, this is a very micro meta. It's going to rely on the DPS making some of these big plays. You need big playmakers on your team. And one of my questions coming into this was, how was this DPS duo of Nadokado and Spinor going to stack up to other DPS duos throughout the entire landscape? Because it is a wide field right now. At least initially, they seem to be getting the better of Puppy Girl Posse, who even though they have a good feel for the meta, at least initially based on that one sub-map, you know, they're playing the correct heroes, they're playing the correct way. They're just kind of getting outplayed here by these DPS, and a little bit as well from this surprise Ana pick. The nades have been great so far. The sleeps also on point. That one goes a little bit awry, but it's enough of a warning shot to get Wink on the point early.
Farah, a little bit of je ne sais quoi, something special coming through from Wink. Nadokado does not want to overextend herself in the face of all of this damage, and so is going to retreat to the back lines where Care is awaiting. For now, no one's going to be giving over too much point for free. Dekla went too deep. There was no LOS from the support. Nymphia is going to do their best to escape, but Nadokado grabs the clean up. Goodbye to Velian. What seemed like it could have been a little bit of a tussle for position quickly became a Wink house of cards, smacking away puppy girls.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure if you're Puppy Girl Posse, like, how you approach this, because ideally Nadokado is going to play towards the backside of the point where you got to imagine Nymphia's never really going to get a clean shot on her. So as long as she plays safe and plays far back and plays as, like, that, you know, second or third line of defense, like, your DPS are pretty much essentially completely locked out if you're Puppy Girl Posse. They might be sent back to spawn early on, courtesy of a jagged wall and a little bit of spikes from Eevee going in deep, showing the lethality of this hazard, showing just why he is so prevalent.
I mean, the hazard wall is also so important at trying to mess with the calculus of a player's head, right, and the safety of an off angle. Like, we've been so used to for a long time of, like, Soja being able to slide out of these off angles to relative safety, and hazard changes all about by being able to block those doors.
Yeah, and it's like the way it comes out too, like sometimes it just looks like a regular shot, like your brain doesn't always track it, and suddenly it's like there's a wall with knockback and damage behind me. I can't back out. I now have to take this duel with this large spiky fellow, and he's got the upper hand.
And he's got a lot of blocking potential as well. There's another wall coming out. Just traps Veli in here for about a moment, but not too many plays coming up the back of it. Puppy Girl Posse. Oh, they've already lost Kaisicle to Eevee. It's not ideal. Nado round the back with the barrage. Hello. Yep, your Suzu might have saved you for a second, but no longer than that. She grabs 2.
Unfortunately, a Suzu does not last long enough to get outside of the blast radius, 74% and counting, and that's the only ultimate that Who is Nadokado have had to use thus far. All right, this is a little bit of playing with your food. I don't know if you need to be that deep in. A little salute, and I'm right back out. Puppy Girl Posse, though, like, you haven't done enough work to build up to anything to be able to withstand this onslaught.
I don't know where that Susa was going, but the Calamari are very happy to be saved from a burning of cooking for a moment. All alone is Declan, no one to save them, and Nephilia are just crawling forward on the Ana, crouching forth and claiming territory. Who is NaNoCado looking dominant on map number 1?
Yeah, we're only one map in, but I might already have an answer to who is NaNoCado, and I'm gonna go ahead and say a threat.
She is her?
Yeah. She might be her. I mean, you know, it kind of felt like for a while the game was playing itself. They had a little bit of a team mismatch, and I feel like Puppy Girl Posse just kind of got caught off guard with this Ana pick, with the Pharah, and like I said, you know, as long as NaNoCado's playing relatively safe, you're never going to be able to get your Sojourn to get an advantageous shot on her. She can just sit up in the sky for free for essentially ever, and you either deal with her or you don't, and it kind of felt like they really had no clue which way to go. Like, any way they went, they were either getting caught up by Eevee or they were just a victim to a barrage at their back door that they never saw coming.
Yeah, Pharah does have, like, quite a few answers for how this composition plays. Like, Hazard can't really threaten her too effectively. The Sojourn, while the rail is a real issue, in order to build up that rail, you have to be exposed to the Hazard long enough to be in significant danger, because one of the reasons Sojourn gets so much play in this particular meta is because it's so easy to build up that rail against a tank who relies on mitigation rather than shielding. And Hazard, it does take a lot of these shots that build up that rail. The second that you're really exposed into a position where you can try and build it up, already you're being spammed up by NaNoCado, and of course, Eevee is just doing so much damage to you as well.
And that's one of those situations where, like, you'll see some of these teams, like I said, on Night Market and Gardens, forsake the Sojourn altogether and go for a Tracer and just try and threaten the backline, force out the enemy Suzus or other resources. In this case, force out the anti-nades, force out the, force the Lucio out of position where you're not really helping the team as much, you're not being as much of a frontline presence, maybe you're also just farming up the Hazard for damage, but if you're never able to get a good shot off on a Pharah, like, she's just up there forever, and you kind of have no choice but to take the ground fight, one which Puppy Girl Posse never effectively took, but they get to choose the fight where the battleground, the fight, I don't know, I'm lost. They get to choose the next map.
And they get to choose the next mode as well, importantly. Superior format, I must say. Being able to really control where the game goes allows for these teams to really build up a significant identity. I would say that this is like a good time to look into how coaches think and look at the identity of the back room and how they want to really steer their team. But Puppy Girl's coach is kind of tanking for who is NaNoCado at the moment.
Hold on, let me head over to the other Discord
Coach,
real quick.
what map should we pick? Which one's good for me?
What's the best Pharah map? All right, You know what? You guys should y'all should pick Blizzard World. I think that's the play. You know what else is also helpful with establishing a team's identity is the fact that we can actually see individual crosshairs now. Thank you to the Ops team for that. I'm seeing a lot of people with the heart crosshairs. I know what you are. Very cool. I dig that. We're seeing a lot of that. I'm curious to see if we're gonna have anybody pick up on that and do the whole Face It League thing where they just try and like one up each other with more and more crazy crosshairs throughout the weekend.
Everyone's just trying to get to Tyre's level, you know? Yeah. The magenta crosshair of legend. Just how much of your screen can you obscure before it becomes a real impediment? Suriavasa and Flashpoint are going to be our chosen destination here, courtesy of Puppy Girl Posse. And this isn't an amazing space for Pharah, maybe trying to deal with that in particular. But also, I feel that Suriavasa is a fairly universally loved map, very well designed, with a good variety of points.
Yeah, like, surprisingly so. Like, again, like, throughout the entire LCQ weekend, we never saw Hybrid because Hybrid and Flashpoint are one map pool in this current iteration, and everybody has been picking Suriavasa. And I think it is because it plays very well into a lot of different styles of the Hazard play, where you can play the Sojourn, you can play the Tracer. I do also think there's some of the points here on this map where the Pharah is viable because it presents that same kind of aerial cover, that same kind of problem that Night Market presents. So the Pharah, I think, while it might not be like the centerpiece, I think it's still on the table.
Yeah, it's having that constant threat, you know, just having to always be thinking about what could potentially be brought forth means that maybe you make some adjustments, if not in your heroes, in your positioning, or how tepidly you're going to approach a first battle in order to get some information beforehand. The less certain you are about what you're going to face, the more you have to invest in your movement when it comes to gathering that information at the beginning.
Well, even if we don't see the Pharah, we do at least get a couple of birds on our screen. Torbs on both sides? I know it's attacker spawns, but surely we didn't get like a gentleman's agreement off screen to get like a Torb mirror here, or is this Eevee's doing?
Yeah, this might be Eevee's doing.
Is Eevee trolling both teams? Like
What you need to do on Saravasa is play the Torbjorn. It's just so powerful. No one can deal with a turret in this particular spot.
Yeah. You know what she said
Question
is she said to Puppy Girl Posse, hey, we're gonna play Tracer, you should play Torb to counter it. And then they're like, all right team, we're gonna play Torb to counter the Tracer that they're gonna end up playing. And then
Was it
now
a
we just
Crucible
have
match?
Oh no, they have the hammers out. This is definitely gonna be a Torb 1v1.
Quick dance, a heel click towards Lock Eyes for Suzu. Is that the starting bell? For now, an approach from Spinor. 2 connections, 3, 4. The hammer goes wide. Kaisicle turns it around. But Navilia, oh, the punishment is there.
That is some bad sportsmanship from Navilia. Yeah, accept your fate.
I believe that was the agreement for first cap here on Saravasa.
What is going on? These teams fighting dirty. Nymphia with a parting shot there. No, you're supposed to give up the point and then fully reset. That's how it works. You can't just go for a little parting shot on Nato Kato and then go back in. All right, we're off the Torbs, back on Genji Sojourn for both sides here. I'm wondering if Who Is Nato Kato is going to give this up and completely for free, or if they're just going to take the reset and go back in here. Through that Torb 1v1, by the way, Declan got a lot of ult charge.
It's been converted. Declan, 50% already. Nice wall just there. Knocked someone down off the high ground as Spinal looks down range here. Can be a built-up rail that's going to do a lot of damage. Navili is already down, though. This is a huge turnaround for Puppy Girl Posse to eventually start to find that backline pressure they were truly lacking on Lijiang Tower. All going over to the low ground, though. Means that now Kaisicle will rise up alone. The rest of the team couldn't get up fast enough, so Kaisicle just fought multiple players by themselves.
That was a classic flex support gambit where you just kind of leave your Ana to be the sacrificial lamb for the incoming dive, and you just simply dive better. You know, Veli couldn't handle the healing of Declan while under immense amounts of pressure from the entirety of Who Is Nato Kato. So even though Navalia does die really early there, you lose the Ana, you lose a lot of your burst healing. Totally fine. If you can take out the tank and inevitably take down that Kiriko as well, you are sitting pretty. You're able to flip it back over at 75%. You got 51 to your name and counter. You should be able to match Puppy Girl Posse here, but this downpour is going to be pretty huge from Declan. We'll see where it ends up landing once it's finally online. A little bit more work to do before it's actually on the table. Kaisicle, though, kicked firmly underneath it.
Oh, wow. That mid-air launch of the wall, making sure to disincentivize Nymphia from going any further forward. Eevee unable to really chase down the supreme ability of Lucio, but it seems like Who Is Nato Kato managed to turn this one around quite successfully, utilizing that high ground. And we're going to a second point.
Yeah, I'm not sure where Navilia's playing, but like a big nade and then Kaisicle falling is like, you know, like I said, you know, we're coming up on the downpour. We're also coming up on the overclock, but we're never given a chance to use either of those ultimates. And the fight just goes to Who Is Nato Kato, who now have essentially every ultimate about to come online. This next fight's going to be a pretty big one. Unfortunately, Kaisicle and Sidekick are lagging a fair bit in terms of ult percentage.
Oh, incoming downpour actually roots Eevee, but the answer's good coming through from Crumb. Drops the sound barrier, not in time to save Navilia, mind, and Spinal's gone too deep off the back of this. It has to be a massive clutch from Nato Kato if she wants to turn it around, but unfortunately finds the business end of a wall. Eevee's in the back. This could be more of a hostage scenario. She sends it for downpour. Eevee trying to turn it around. Coach, we're going to VOD review that one.
Yeah, I don't know if that was necessarily the play. That nade certainly was. Hello? Was that intentional?
That was quite the peak right there with very little HP left. Punished by Navilia. That's going to be a Nato blade. Oh, the slice, the dice, and everything. Nice twist delivered by Nato Kato. Who is she? She's her.
30% over for Puppy Girl Posse, and with one nade and then a nano blade, it all goes the way of Who Is Nato Kato. And I mean, they don't even have full control of the point. Like, they just got on the board 13%, but they are pushed so far up to try and force resources out of Puppy Girl Posse. Like, they should be looking to open up with a Kitsune Rush and couple it with either the overclock and the blade. But Spinor wants to go first.
Trying to move first, indeed. Nim trying to move away. Feeling very low. Should be able to get some healing here as well. Navilia elsewhere has been taken down. Declan finds
oh, wait, Crumb gets
Crumb.
that kill.
Yeah, it's a wild trade right there. Declan's going to be in a 1 versus 2. What a play with the rock right there. That's actually going to get the flip at the end here. Oh, just a couple of percentage points shy. Declan gets a touch of healing. Finds a 2v1 with the help of Lucio, who are returning, but damn, Eevee, what a shot. Declan traded out as well, and despite the troubles and tribulations, Nadokado will stay in control.
All of my meta-analysis I've been doing the past week could not have prepared me for how silly this game has been so far. Like, that kill onto Kaisicle, there's no way Crumb should have got that. Luis Nadokado holding on to the point this whole time, also no way that should have happened, but 98%. I don't think Puppy Girl Posse have a touch, and indeed they do not. Gardens goes the way of Who is Nadokado, seemingly slipping right through Puppy Girl Posse's paws, and now as we head over to Palace, Kaisicle's already dead. Who is Nadokado? They have a clear path forward, and a Kitsune from the side of Puppy Girl Posse to try and line it.
Declan, under pressure here, has to disengage. For Suzu used as well. That's going to be a huge opening for Navilia later on in the fight. Nymphia feeling paranoia. The flanks, none of them are safe. There are voices in the walls. Nymphia turns away for a moment. Rail ready to go, but at this point, what use is it with Psychic already down? Puppy Girl Posse forced to back out.
It's like a teeny little jump there where you were talking about Nymphia being paranoid and Belly teleports in. You're like, no, it's your support. Like, you're fine. You're totally chill. Like, they're there to help you, all right? Who is Nadokado, though? They are offering no help to Puppy Girl Posse whatsoever. Once again, coming up on just about every ultimate. Sans that overclock. We're a little bit behind on that, and I don't really see a way for Puppy Girl Posse to get in here unless they get a killer downpour from Declan.
Well, that was one. Crumb taken out, traded though for Nymphia, and Declan in the back line, finding a bunch of the healers. And now Declan just going to set up on point. They're ready to try and find some real purchase for Downpour. Comes in, doesn't get too much in the way of purchase. We'll grab the Lucio, but Declan's there to peel. And Puppy Girl Posse off the back of that opening pick managed to open it up.
That's one of the things that's like really weird about running this Ana composition, especially on maps where you don't have access to keep her up on the high ground or give her like a Brigitte to try and use the whip shots to really peel for her, is she is a vulnerability, especially against the Hazard. If Hazard ever sees her out of position, that is the easiest and most free jump, violent leap / kill that you can ask for.
Eevee moved on to point alone. 2 blades drawn out. Whose steal is harder? It might well be Nadokado's. The amplification of a nano boost too much to bear here for the side of Puppy Girl Posse, who didn't get Sidekick to invest that sound barrier as an answer in time.
Yeah, and I mean, that's going to be a great deterrent for Spinor's overclock, but you still kind of need something to break past that and get yourself onto the point. And I'm looking at Nymphia to have an overclock, as well as that Kitsune rush coming out from Belly. Hopefully you're able to build up to those quickly, but at 70%, this is your only opportunity for this map.
Samurai in the back. It's an aggressive push forward. That is quite the leap there from Spinor. She is cooking, and she is cooked. She's fried beyond belief. Blackened flesh and char coming through. Nymphia popped the overclock! Oh, it had to be done. There had to be some manner of clutch, but it doesn't make me like it anymore. Crumb falling low, forced away for a moment by Declan. Eevee noted in the back. Having to just plant their foot on terra firma. Who is Nadokado should be removed from this, but all that significant investment, blood, sweat, and tears to turn around potentially. Spinor, she pops the overclock. Declan doesn't have the HP to try and use it. Kaisicle, the lone shinobi, will stand for their lord. The samurai of fallen Nymphia picks up Spinor, and now is all the way into the back, turning it around at the last moment. Don't C9, please. Okay, there we go.
What a way that map could have ended if there was that C9 there, but it might still end pretty quickly. Who is Nadokado? They're going to come back in. Puppy Girl Posse's last remnants have to try and back off. There's a jagged wall to try and cut off the entrance. Definitely going to go ahead and jump over, get onto the point there. Sidekick has fallen, though, so you're losing out on that Lucio.
They go Downpour. Nice dodge. Eevee giving the nano now. Declan. Oh, Declan's just eviscerated. They never stood a chance. A turnaround here. A look towards Kaisicle. When Eevee's eyes land on you, I'm afraid the death note has been written. Bounced into the midst of the spike trap is Velian, who is Nadokado, managed to flip the point and take the map.
This certainly was a map, yeah. It's a 3-0 for Who is Nadokado, and I'm not still entirely certain what I've seen. Like, I've watched a fair bit of Hazard gameplay over the past like couple of weeks. You know, I was prepping for LCQ, I was prepping for this one. I've been watching the scrims, but I've never seen, you know, just such chaos coming out. You know, Lucio's getting kills that they have no business getting. You know, Hazard's going in super, super deep, coming away with 2, getting out. That kind of checks out. You know, he's kind of strong right now. Overall, like, I kind of feel like it's a bit of a mismatch. I think Who is Nadokado should firmly have this 3-0.
Yeah, it's a lot of chaos, but some teams thrive in chaos a little bit more than others. For some teams who've been scrimming for maybe a less extended amount of time as a 5, when things start to become a little bit RNG, a little bit Chaos Guard influence, maybe Zinch is casting some spells in the back. Sometimes it just comes down to mechanical outplays, and despite Kai clearly being the superior Torbjorn, in the end, it feels like Nadokado and Spinal are consistently finding these opening picks more. Honorable shout out though to Nymphia, who was more than their fair share managing to grab those opening picks, I believe often onto Crumb.
Yeah, Crumb, who, you know, I'll say was kind of out of position a few times, like right there, was going on for a duel with Kaisicle, gets the kill there, and, you know, definitely just comes back in and says, what are you doing? What are you doing here? Who invited you? This is like our point right now. Yeah, shout out to shout out to Nadokado specifically, because I've also seen her play a lot of the Sojourn in the past, be a predominant hit scan, but I've also seen her in scrims playing the Genji, and we're seeing her play a phenomenal Genji right now, and it's actually Spinor picking up the role of the Sojourn. But I think the Genji play from Nadokado is making up the difference for this this team so far, and I think going forward in this tournament, that is going to be something that they're going to rely pretty heavily on. If you're Puppy Girl Posse, though, you are relying on one final map pick, and it can't be hybrid. So, I mean, Escort, Push, Clash, those are kind of your only options right now, and you've picked the worst one. You've gone for Clash.
All of these options, and you picked the worst one.
All these options, you picked Hanaoka. What, like...
Omi rolls up to the all-you-can-eat buffet and just has for salad.
Yeah, but this is more like having just like a Coke, like not even there's very little nutritional value here. Like, what are you like? This is just like soda, maybe a Diet Coke. It's like aspartame. Like, this is what you're consuming right now.
I love consuming aspartame. Hanaoka and Clash are going to be where potentially we finish this series. Wink on the edge of a 3-0. It feels like Eevee has some insight here into Puppy Girl Posse. Likely has a couple of ideas as to how Puppy Girl Posse like to play the game. And obviously, maybe when you're playing up against a team that you've coached, and maybe you know that they don't deal as well with chaos, your team decides to get a little bit silly with it, take some wild off angles and engagements, and really try and tact the communications of a fresher team.
Yeah, and it's like really the only off-meta thing that they're playing to really get silly is the Ana, and that itself doesn't really seem all that chaotic. Like, there's nothing too silly about like an elderly woman for your backline, especially when you're going up against a dive composition and she's not paired with a Brig. Like, that's bait. Like, you can just jump in on that. The only thing silly about it is, like you said, the off angles, the way that they're setting the tempo, the way they're going for these super, super aggressive dives, playing really, really far forward. And that's actually, like, it looks silly right now because of, like, this kind of mismatch here, but that's actually the mark of a good team, you know? It's not just the fights that you're taking. It's not just the comps that you are playing. It's where and when you're taking these fights, how you are initiating them, who is your primary target, where's the target calling. And in a lot of these, it's very scrappy because things are all over the place. It's a little bit disorganized. I think, you know, Who is Nadokado might be a couple of steps ahead of Puppy Girl Posse overall, but you are seeing a lot of that manifest. You're seeing Eevee going in with some of these initial, you know, picks onto players that are just out of position, where there's no one that could possibly help them. You're seeing the Suzu from Veli being taxed pretty heavily by both the anti-nades and the dives from Eevee, as well as ongoing pressure, seemingly never-ending pressure from Nadokado, and you're also always worrying about an off-angle Sojourn rail shot, especially if you're not able to, you know, take that duel confidently. All props to Nymphia, but I also kind of feel like Spinor is getting ahead in that exchange as well.
Quick shout out to the art team here on Hanaoka. I believe that art of the dragon versus the tiger is a reference to the Shimada clan versus the Hashimoto clan in the old future Japanese lore of Overwatch 2. They brought out a new comic for Christmas/New Year, by the way. Highly recommend you check it out. Overwatch's lore universe is very fulfilling. We need more Zenlord, though. Give it to me. Are they going to do it again? Kaisicle versus Spinal? I mean, previously Kaisicle won it.
I mean, that's one way to spice up Clash, is go for another Torb 1v1. Kaisicle's not locked in yet, though. I imagine we've got match chat hidden, and they're trying to, like, egg Kaisicle on. Like, come on. Yeah, negotiating some terms here. Either that or Spinor's like, yeah, no, we just got this. Oh, Eevee was telling the truth. It is actually all about the Roadhog at this level.
It is all about the Roadhog at this level. They are going to roll out with it with the, okay, now they're kind of going to swap away from the Sim, of course, over onto the Tracer, just getting the Roadhog into position a little bit faster. Declan might not expect this, so we could expect a potential surprise hook. A nice throw out there. You can see that actually Eevee's not putting out any early shots as to not reveal their Roadhog position too early and maybe get a little bit more value of a surprise hook, but has been noted for the moment. An attempt to try and grab. Oh, for now, just waiting, trying to force out that Suzu. There's a cancel on the what perfect timing coming through from Veli. High value Suzu.
While that was happening, though, Nadokado was in the back line, took down Sidekick, and that is your back line pretty much gutted. Veli is on, like, no HP. Can't help Declan. There's another anti-nade that comes through, and yeah, Veli was under way too much threat to be able to do anything about that. So this Roadhog composition inevitably does win out. And Kai'Sa, I think, feels like the Genji's not going to cut it anymore. Going to have to try and mirror this Tracer Sojourn composition. Also feeling the Hazard's not going to cut it, so we're on to Orisa now, and we are very much so in uncharted territory. I can't say I've seen this in any of my scrims.
I've seen it in my ranked games, though. The old tank counter roulette. Here we go.
Yes.
This is what Overwatch is all about, baby. Nymphia, for now, a little bit paranoid of Nadokado, playing around these angles, but should be fairly easily counted out by Kai'Sa and their sidekick working in tandem. Nadokado might find themselves a 2v1 here. Oh, Sidekick found elsewhere. Even might have managed to grab the hook off the back of that one. Some incoming damage. Oh, come on. Go for Tracer on Tracer stick. For the mean. Oh, Veli with two. Oh, my goodness. The kunai with chain. Joey always knew.
He always knew. Veli with the nice two-piece there. Cleans up Eevee as well. And all right. I mean, great play coming out from the back line. Finally, showing some pay dirt here. It's going to be Puppy Girl Posse getting themselves on the board here. Actually, no, Nadokado's going to go in, try and get the contest here. I say try. You know, doing a lot of heavy lifting is that word. And that's going to be Puppy Girl Posse. They are now on the board. They're going to have a Kitsune Rush going into this next point up against a Nano Boost on the other side. Nymphia just, you know, picking off at the toesies there. Orisa's got 4 of them, so might as well go for the ones that are sticking out.
That's why Eevee didn't move either. I've got 4 of them. I can afford to sacrifice 1 or 2. Nadokado into the back. Still has a pulse bomb in the back pocket if she decides to use it. Kai'Sa already down. With the Sojourn, she simply doesn't know. She was unaware. Nymphia had no idea. Eevee with the nano. Plenty of damage to throw on. Fourth, the big old spear does not connect. Up against 3 here. Eevee has to make a choice. Do they want to try and play something aggressive? Going up against this much healing is going to be difficult, but nice. Hide behind the lantern. Wait for that Terror Surge to slam on down. There's a lot of pressure here when it comes to capping the point from who is Nadokado, but Puppy Girl actually turning it around. Veli with another double. Veli's come to play.
This is how I know that we're all trolling, is all of these long range heroes like the Sojourn going into this close enclosure with a horse. You don't want to be stuck in the cattle enclosure in this zoo, all right? They fight back. It is lethal. Declan ends up cleaning up all those kills despite Nymphia being taken down early. And Kai'Sa as well in that exchange got taken down by an anti-nade. You had no DPS line, just one angry horse in a small cage, and you locked yourself in with her.
You've heard of a bull in a china shop. What about a horse in a pagoda? It's different. Crumb, oh yeah, fleeing around as fast as possible. That fully charged rail certainly going to be difficult to survive. And so, for now, who is Nadokado? They're setting up a defensive perimeter as their backline's going to try and cap. There was an explosion. No one found off the back of that. Spinal falling low, moves over towards the mini instead to get a little bit of self-serve healing at the buffet. And this is going to be difficult to retake. We have to invest to do it. Nymphia pops up. Spinal the same. Every sound barrier, everyone hit Q. Dragged on in. And that means that those piercing rails do even more damage. Veli no clutch this time. Demands Spinal. She puts that one to bed before it can begin. And that's going to be a cap.
2-2, back towards the center there, and that Terror Surge made all the difference. You know, bull in china shop, fish in a barrel, horse in pagoda. We're getting a lot of animals in small places, and that's all Spinor needs to hit those rail shots. Great. With the piercing damage as well, it all comes through so cleanly. Who is Nadokado? Also, we're going to get an early high ground positional on this next point here, and it's Puppy Girl Posse. Sure, you have the Kitsune Rush, but your options are either try and use that to take that high ground, or you use it on the point after you force them off, and I think it's probably going to have to be the former rather than the latter if you're going to want to be able to get in here. But hey, turn around.
Force for Suzu, use the nade. It's a simple flow chart for who is Nadokado, and the flow chart is being followed. Management could not be happier with you at the performance review.
It's no ults used, no real resources used, just someone failing to not even check their corners, just didn't even check their 6, and there's a horse there, and so much damage comes through. Like, these sneaky Orisas just keep getting into places where they don't belong and causing a ruckus.
You know, the horse is here. Declan ready with the terror. Never mind. Oh, it's going to be a forced disengage here off the back of the Kitsune rush. Don't want to fear the wrath of Veli as they throw out Kitsune and Kunai in tandem. It's going to be a while before this cap comes through, though. That gives plenty of time for Nadokado to recover. Veli down, Spinal. Nadokado hasn't even used the blade yet, just got the bare nano and seems to be doing just fine with shurikens and little else. The flavor is all given over, and that's going to be another cap here for Nadokado.
Yeah, now you have that blade to carry on over to the next point, which is going to be really rough because now we're going into that one where the Puppy Girl Posse is going to have all of the spawn advantage, but you only need one tick, and maybe a sound barrier with a blade, a little bit of Beat Saber action, maybe that can take you all the way home. If you're Puppy Girl Posse, you don't have any support ults, you don't really have anything defensive. Just one singular Terra Surge that you have to use with precision in order to try and stuff this attack before Nadokado build to even more. Right now, they're not even taking the fight, though. Like, they're waiting for the point to unlock before they move forward because they don't want to waste their time going for any picks right now that are just going to come back later that they have to deal with 2 or 3 times. There we go. There's the Beat Saber.
Oh, so low. Sidekick doing their best to dodge around. Vasu's actually been given over now, and that means that there's a lot of pressure coming in on the point. Nadokado slain by Nymphia on their way out. Nivelia found as well, but remember, there's not much room for error here on the side of Puppy Girl Posse. They can't afford to give away a single tick, and it seems like they've got no intention of doing so. Out comes another Suzu, and that should be a clean fight.
I know, it ends up kind of looking a little bit sloppy from Nadokado, but it still shows that they, you know, despite this whole match really being really crazy, kind of unpredictable, they're still trying to play in a way that seems optimal, where they're waiting and biding their time and just trying to pick their moment. But like you said, the Suzu from Veli was on point, and the Terra Surge from Declan ends up shutting that push down. And Puppy Girl Posse, they don't have any more room for errors still, but they do have the opportunity now to run this back, and they have 2 DPS ults to use it. I thought Kai Skull was about to pop that blade. That was just a warning dash.
Yeah, for now, Terra Surge drags people on down to low HP and drags them up onto higher geographies. There's going to be the drawn out blade. Veli, I'm not sure if Kaisicle was misidentifying their target right there. Serve on their own Kiriko. Maybe for a touch of healing. Who knows? Nadokado now in control. Nymphia pops the overclock, but not able to get too much off the back of that. This should be the series for Nadokado. Yes, it's going to be a valiant attempt from Sidekick, but Robin, you're not up to fighting the Joker yet. It's the big leaves. It's a Batman tier job. It's a Batman size job for the rest of them. Spinal brings out their souvenir, and Nadokado will walk away with this 3-0.
I do also like that moment where Kaisuko goes in and like is brandishing the blade at your own Kiriko. It's like, okay, Eevee clearly gave this whole team trust issues. Like, I don't know who to trust right now. I don't know who's on which side. I know Veli popped off with some clean headshots there, but unfortunately wasn't enough to give Puppy Girl Posse the W here. Unfortunately, they're going to be heading down to our lower bracket. I think, though, that Nadokado showed us some pretty impressive stuff here. Again, it was a mismatch, but I did actually see some really strong micro play out of the DPS, which is what I'm looking for in this meta. And I did also see some intelligent macro play, you know, waiting to try and take optimal fights and not always buying into the chaos, especially in situations where it would have been to their detriment. Like, going into that last point where they tried to wait and bide their time before they go in, knowing they're up against the spawn advantage, is really, really smart. And even though they end up losing that fight, they lose it so quickly that they're able to set up for the next point and don't end up giving that one over, which is kind of Clash 101. You know, you don't play too deeply into the enemy team's hand when they have the spawn advantage. You always try and set up for the point that's going to be the most optimal for you to take it. If you can afford to give up those points, you're more than happy to do so. Well played all around. I think going further into this bracket, Nadokado could potentially make a deep run if they, you know, continue to show us at this level of dominance over other teams. Competition is going to get more stiff as we go along, but I do think both the macro and the micro are trending in the right direction for this team.
Yeah, if I was going to Cliff's Notes your deep and thoughtful analysis there, I'd say solid fundamentals and discipline. Nadokado might have a little bit of a silly streak in them, but when it comes to actually fight planning in potentially perilous situations like attacking the last point of a clash, they seem to have their they got their head screwed on right, you know. And I'm surprised and somewhat enamored by the variety that we've seen come out of Nadokado. Maybe it was a little bit of a mess about to play on the Roadhog, but showing that they're very proficient in an Orisa versus Orisa mirror as well, and all the way through that series, basically playing the Ana as well. We're going to see if that's maybe just their counterplay going against the Hazard and Kiriko, or if potentially that's going to be their mainstay against a huge amount of comps. Of course, in the Orisa vs. Orisa, the Ana was incredibly valuable as well, because that anti is always super good, and you're always going to have a lower cooldown than when you go up against than the Suzu with the Kiriko.
I have seen in scrims a lot of teams trying to make the Ana stick, but it's usually on maps like Dorado or, you know, like Blizzard Worlds, where places where you can, like you said, set her up on the high ground, maybe pair her up with a Brig or have your Lucio ready to peel. Somewhere where she's not the most easily accessible. What's interesting is Who is Nadokado play her on every map, even if she's on the ground. And even though you're up against the flanking composition, you have enough survivability, you have enough confidence in your backline to know that she's going to be able to take those fights, and also enough confidence in your front line to know that, hey, even if Navilia dies, we can still win this fight just because we're the ones setting the tempo, we're the ones going more aggressive. And if this is something that they're able to get away with, it could put a lot of pressure on other Hazards, it could force a lot of resources out of other Kirikos going forward. Unfortunately, it's literally the first thing we all saw on broadcast, so everyone's going to see it coming now. Oops, there's tape on you now, but it's still a pretty decent strategy. Let's see if they stick to it throughout this tournament.
Yeah, in particular, I love the point about the trust in the front line, because I feel like one of the things we really did see again and again in this series was that, like, yes, Navilia was often picked because that's kind of your job as the Ana. What's my purpose? I heal and then I die. Yeah. But often the damage had been done by the time that Navilia was down, and whatever was manufactured before Navilia fell was an easy conversion for the 4 players who are a bit deeper.
Yeah, it's a very greedy composition, but you know, when you're up against a team like Puppy Girl Posse, where you kind of very much so have the upper hand, no disrespect to Puppy Girl Posse, because their Torb was stellar, I can give them that much at least. When you're up against a team where you do kind of have this mismatch, you can get away with that level of greed. Sooner or later, it may come to bite them, or it could take them all the way to a championship. Who knows? Like I said, we've got stories yet to be written. Who is Nadokado? Still writing their own, still trying to figure out who she is, but like you said a couple times, she just might be her.
She's starting to believe. She's got to become who she really is. Over the course of our championship, we've got 4 days of action-packed Overwatch action, and this is only the first match. So there's going to be plenty of time for you to earn those viewership incentives over the course of the next few weeks, as well as find out all about the wonderful things offered by our sponsor, Blacklight Chairs. Some excellent ergonomic gaming chairs that are available for you. And, well, we've got a couple more matches today as well. We're going to be getting into our lower bracket later on. But first of all, we've got to populate it with another unfortunate loser.
We've got to populate it with losers, and there's only one way to determine who the winners and who the losers are here. We got more Overwatch to play. We got another match for you on this side of this break. Don't go anywhere, chat. We will see you in just a minute with our next matchup today. It's going to be a fun one. See you on the other side. Welcome back, everyone. That first matchup went by pretty quickly. Blink if you miss it. Who is Nato Kato dispatched of the Puppy Girl Posse quite quickly. As we move on to our next matchup, though, we're hoping things might be a little bit more close, and I think it's going to be a little bit more interesting because there are some untold stories here about to unfold. We'll have a quick look at where the bracket sits now. Who is Nato Kato, after dispatching Puppy Girl Posse, as we've mentioned, now has a date with Destiny, or rather the team that may be destined to win the whole damn thing, Nightmare Eclipse.
Yeah, may well have sent the Puppy Girl Posse to a farm upstate, but Nightmare Eclipse are a whole different ballgame when it comes to opponent strength. We still got to populate the rest of our quarterfinals bracket, though. And we're going to see exactly who's going up against our number 2 seed in Valentine between Shikigami and Hypnos Isolus.
And these are two teams that I think also have interesting stories. Shikigami has been around Calling All Heroes pretty much since the dawn, and have a lot of talented players that have yet to really make a lasting impact, really make a deep run in a tournament bracket up to this point. But they have been mainstays of a lot of these tournaments, and I do expect to see them come out swinging today. I've heard good things about this roster in this meta. I'm also very interested to see what Hypnos Isolus brings to the table, because I've heard some very fun things about that roster. Some new blood coming in from across a certain pond, a certain Pacific one, to be exact. But let's have a quick look at these rosters here. Let's see what Shikigami first is bringing to the table, and it should be some familiar names from those of you who have been around here in the Calling All Heroes scene. Saba, Fifi, you know, a lot of these DPS players that we've seen around. Abby's a bit of a new one. Holly and Nicoletta, though. Nicoletta is another mainstay. This is a roster that I do think has a lot of talent, especially in that DPS line, and in a meta where DPS lines have to establish themselves. This is a really strong opportunity for these two to show what they have.
Yeah, and you pointed out that Abby is a newer player as well to this roster, and one of the important things about having like a long-running series infrastructure like Calling All Heroes, which has been going for 3 majors and now a championship, is seeing the discovery of these players and seeing how they can fit in to these rosters and really establish themselves as being a new generation of Overwatch talent, which just continues to improve year after year. Another thing to note about these rosters as well is that they're both the sister teams of established Overwatch organizations, so the infrastructure's there for improvement. Of course, Shikigami is a sister team, I believe, of Shikigami, and Hypnos Isolus is going to be under the Ex Oblivione umbrella, one of that's Matilda Smedius' org, the voice actor for Brigitte.
Ah, I love her. And I do also love the Ex Oblivione family, because they have been really pitching in and putting forth a lot of these teams as we bid farewell to Shikigami. By the way, shout out to Aeroplane, the owner of the Shikigami org, and Shikigami as well. She's been doing a lot in the tier 2, tier 3 scenes for Overwatch for a very long time. But again, back over to the EXO side, Hypnos Isolus. One thing I really want to see is this backline. So we do have Saya and Sirena. There is another player on this team that does also make this interesting. I'm curious if we're going to see her. Her name is Opal. She is a Korean talent. This team has been going out of their way to try and bring a specific international flavor to Calling All Heroes. We haven't had a whole lot of Korean talent, and Hypnos Isolus has gone out of their way a couple of times to try and integrate them into mixed rosters, bring them into the fold, and see if we can try and bridge that particular gap. And it's had kind of limited success, but going into this meta, I think it could bring, you know, an interesting dynamic to the team. It's also going to put a lot of focus onto the front line, again, because we are in a micro-heavy meta. I want to highlight what. She is very good on a lot of these hit scans. I think a lot of weight is going to be on her soldiers. I think for the most part, she's going to be picking up your Sojourn, and then you're also going to have Reva making up that DPS duo.
Yeah, Reva is going to have to capitalize on opportunities that What brings to the fore with well-placed rails. Of course, we did have that change to Sojourn's rail to bring down its damage, but also bring like up the amount of pressure it can put out by piercing through players in, I believe, maybe 2 seasons ago worth of patches. Our first map, of course, is going to be a control map, Lijiang Tower, starting as is tradition. And, well, I'm wondering if we're going to see any repeats from our previous series. Are both teams going to be happy to settle into that Kiriko groove? Or is it going to be some more experimentation towards the Ana? Are we even going to see more Hazard? The answer, of course, is going to be yes. But, hey, we saw a momentary lapse of the Hazard dominance to show some Orisa. Maybe we see something like that again? Probably not on this map, though.
I had heard from Jin, the manager of Hypnos Isolus, that they were trying to, or maybe not trying, but like pitching the idea of incorporating an Orisa composition into the rotation just because they feel like they might not be the strongest at the Hazard meta, so they want to try and make some adaptations, play some ways that might act as sort of a Hazard counter composition. And if you're the better team, we saw in our last series that can kind of work out, but that's, you know, a pretty big asterisk. It's already the, like, if you are the better team. But, like, if you're the better team, you should also be the better team when it comes to the Hazard composition, and that is what Hypnos Iceless is going to be coming out here with. They do understand the assignment. Unfortunately, you are gonna have to put your kilt on, don the Scott, pilot this Hazard, and kick things off on Gardens. Again, we're gonna have one on the Sojourn, Reva on the Genji. I'm curious to see if either of them decide to make a swap over to the Tracer at any point in time.
Oh, Wi-Fi's actually in for Shikigami at the moment, which is very interesting.
Wi-Fi's actually a player I've been impressed with in the past on a couple of rosters that I've seen.
Yeah, I think that Wi-Fi's been playing in Bad Patch Mario League, Community League for a while as well, and has been very impressive there. So I'm interested to see what they bring out on the Lucio here. Aside from that, it seems to be fairly standard. Bob, you're not gonna want to try and slide through the disruptor shot, my friend. And well, they're made to pay for that. Wi-Fi with 2 already. Is this why they're in for Li Zhongtao? A little bit of a wild Lucio player on the Gardens.
Got the Legion of Gaunt skin on too, really showing up, repping the king, and right, Namari of their own, coming up with 2 opening picks. And I mean, yeah, so you get what getting that opening pick onto Wow Bob there, but it's actually Wi-Fi with those 2 kills on the Lucio. Again, it's very micro heavy, a lot of pressure on the DPS, but you're never expecting the Lucio to be the one to pop off. If you have a Lucio that can pop off, though, it brings a little bit of an X factor that the other team can't really adequately deal with.
Oh, wow, Bob. She's the first one to fall again. This Sojourn is getting heavily bullied here. Dear Girl simply holds right-click at the midst of Shikigami, and Hypnos Iceless remain in a dominant position here. Oh, okay. Interesting. That would have been a very fun kill to find. There's the flip. Hypnos Iceless can now try and play this defensively.
I was gonna say, you mess with a deer, you get the antlers, but then I realized that female deers typically don't have antlers.
You
also,
get the stubs.
Yeah, you get the. I said female deers. The plural of deer is just deer. Yeah, it's just deer. I should know this. I've been around long enough to know what the plural of deer is.
That's going on the CV. Put it on the resume. Knows what the plural of deer is. And attempt to try and chase out the Genji. Fifi under pressure. 1 versus 2 is offered, but a well-placed wall here is going to have a little bit of disruption for the Hypnos defense. Out comes the Kitsune Rush. But desperately want to try and turn this one around. Wow Bob's the one to get the opening pick this time onto Bochi. But what? Unperturbed. Holds in place, sends out shots, and finds their target.
And that's Cyrena popping that Kitsune Rush and what getting all the value from it, whereas Holly holds on to that one, and Wi-Fi's gonna have a sound barrier to couple with it, so Shikigami have a way in here. I think Fifi's Dragon Blade is gonna be the huge difference maker here, because Mochi is still kind of lagging behind on that sound barrier, so you don't really have a counter. If you go right now with it, 99%, and...
There we go. Nadfish claiming a bunch of space, but it's going to be headshots delivered by other players that find those final blows. Nadfish looking for Dear Girl, and while Bochi has been able to give over a small Uber into the point for Serena, I'm afraid it's going to be a 4-star review for that. Died instantly.
That is Bochi dying to a jagged wall. Bochi, meet the rock. There you go. There's the... Any fans of Bochi the Rock? There we go. That's my one-liner I'm working in for them. Hypnos Iceless, they're gonna fall there. Shikigami managed to win that using only the Kitsune Rush, so that Dragon Blade is still very much so on the field, but now that sound barrier is available, it's not gonna be as clean. You're gonna be looking at the Sojourn to try and get the kills here.
Well placed wide. Nice block with the rock. Gets Fifi out of there. Not much value coming off of that. Where was Bob going? Oh, Bochi managed to get the boop at the worst time, it would seem. Interrupting that slide. Should be a flip back over in favor of Iceless here. The Genji going to be... Oh, hold up. Ankles have been broken. We're going to need to get their eyes checked, but Fifi in the end is going to be taken down. 10% separate Iceless from grabbing their first point.
Yeah, and that's pretty clean for them. They hold onto both DPS holds. You saw Fifi pop that Dragon Blade. Reva held onto it, so Hypnos Iceless, they still have that. They've taken down Wi-Fi, so this should be really clean for them.
Should be. For now, Bob just going to try and extract some value from that overclock on the other side. Wants him to get a little bit more done. Getting in close and personal with Fifi, but it's just a love tap from Raven that puts that one to bed. Shikigami gain only 55% before they're shut out by Iceless.
All right, and Reva still keeping that blade holstered, able to hold on to it. Didn't even need it. Obviously, it's not going to carry on over into the next round, but The fact that they were able to get that done with just a clean pick onto Wi-Fi and then that overclock kind of just goes to show how confident Hypnos Iceless were in that last fight. And why wouldn't you be when you see how much Shikigami invested in the previous one? You know, I talk about how micro heavy this is, but the macro still matters. Overwatch is still a game of ultimates, and sometimes having more Qs than the other team has Qs means that you will get the dub.
Sometimes it's simple addition, my friend.
That's what, yeah, so Hanzo always says.
Mathematics may be all. We'll see if there's any big changes here. It's interesting with Shikigami. They are getting more tryhard strats, you know? They're getting their TPs forward to get greater positional advantages, but doesn't seem to be getting as much value in these first fights off the back of them. Last time it was Wowbob who was actually the first to fall early target, and well, there's the same thing again. Oh, my powers of prophecy. They're too strong. And Pachimari rubbed off on me.
Well, I mean, Shikigami are coming ahead in this fight pretty decisively off the back of a pickoff onto Bochi, and then all these other dominoes just going to fall one by one. It's just what left alone on that angle. She was trying to hold to maybe get an extra pick there, but it's never going to come, especially with your team no longer available to make space, and Shikigami going to get the first cap here. Get a fair bit of charge up onto that Kitsune Rush, and I think in this meta, that's still kind of like the big ultimate that you can use to set the tempo, take the space, and initiate fights on your terms.
I wonder if it's going to be a worrying trend. Often it just seems to be Wowbob falling first, but everyone else being taken down when, like, the 4v5 goes awry. It might be too deep a dive to try and finish off afterwards, but this time Diego manages to stay alive a while longer, and Hypnos, they can manage to grab that one. Shikigami, despite like they need more support for Wowbob, or Wowbob needs to be a little bit more aware to counter-rotate how Hypnos are making these engagements happen, because it feels like they're constantly being overwhelmed by a Hazard moment registered trademark.
Yeah, like, and that's one of the things about Hazard that makes him so lethal, is the fact that he has the ability to punish a DPS that is out of position without support. If this Sojourn is ever caught out without her slide, that is a free Violent Leap / kill for the Hazard, and the Hazard has enough survivability to take those duels and then get out back to his team safely. That's something that a Sojourn constantly has to be on the lookout for.
Wi-Fi, amps up the healing, amps up the blasters as well. Sound barrier for everybody. It's going to be 2 support ultimates given over. This needs to be one right now. A long fight, maybe not in the interest of Shikigami, but Natfish certainly interested in delivering purple spikes to the back of their counterpart. Shikigami, with a big investment of their support ultimates, managed to turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little unfortunate that you invest both support ultimates, especially when you look on the other side and you see Bochi coming up on that sound barrier and what coming up on that that overclock. I think they're going to be able to dictate a lot of space with that combination of ultimates. You're looking at Beefy, who has the advantage on the Dragon Blade, but doesn't really have the space to work with it. A lot of pressure coming out from Deer Girl. Beefy saw some work to do to get that ultimate and some work to do to get back into a position to use it.
In comes the rain. That'll root some people up down, but for now, not being presented with too many targets. Natfish can't escape due to a well-placed wall. Interrupt all of that, gives himself some cover, and for now, Shikigami will hold firm.
It's so key that downpour hits Bochi specifically, because we talked about Bochi coming up on that sound barrier. Had she actually been able to use that, she might have been able to save what through that overclock, and they could have gotten a little bit more damage that comes out there. But Shikigami ended up taking out the winning combination, but now here comes the blade.
They want Wowbob, and they're going to invest to do it, coming in from behind. Fifi unable to really secure that one, and there's going to be a little bit of value gained off the back of the blade. For now, Bochi staying alive. Fifi in danger. Diego delivers that danger. She is the danger. And, well, there's no escape for Natfish. Up against the wall and finding the business end of the Lucio Fist. Isolus will turn it around.
So a lot of pressure has been on Wowbob throughout this entire matchup, and right now she's got the overclock. You're going to be looking for her to try and find an advantageous angle to use that, but every time she goes to one, Deer Girl has been jumping on her, or either that or she's been hit with a Dragon Blade. So a lot of pressure right now is on her shoulders, and that's exactly what Hypnos Isolus want, because every time that situation has been the one we find ourselves in, it's gone their way.
Attempt to try and isolate the Hazard. Could be a touch too far in. Diego punished for their arrogance. And now Shikigami are just going to swamp onto a point. They know that if they can manage to flip this over, it's going to be all the pressure on Hypnos to get the touch in the end. What? Down Raver 2. And now scant percentage points separate Isolus from having to go to a third map. Wi-Fi with a double. Wait, did Serena TP in to Bikini?
I don't think that there was a teleport into like certain Doom. I think just didn't have anybody that you could swift step to and was just caught off on the edge there with just Cyrena and Bochi getting booped there. But that's a great finishing play there from Wi-Fi. And it's also a really good overclock from Wow Bob, even though it doesn't actually get a whole lot of kills. It's still respected from the side of Hypno's Isolus, so they can't take any angles where they can peek to try and help out Deer Girl as she's going in way too aggressively, and Shikigami are able to punish the hazard successfully, something that is so difficult to do in this day and age, especially if, you know, the Kiriko is even in the same zip code as the hazard. But because you're able to get that kill and translate it into a capture and then come in with that heroic boot from Wi-Fi to close it out, Shikigami tie us up 1-1, and we go to Control Center to break the knot.
It all comes down to this. Once again, I'm going to be looking at Wow Bob at the beginning. Twice now, Shikigami have lost Wow Bob first and then won the 4v5 just because of overextensions from Hypnos to try and manage to grab that. You can see Bochi going deep right now. They want Fifi this time, but the escapability of Fifi not enough, going up against the speed boost. What? Dodges away. Nice play right there to avoid the big slice coming through from Natfish, who now is just going to be building up a huge amount of rail charge. And as they have to go up against the hordes of Isolus, it seems that it's going to be a cap going over the way of the orange.
So, I mean, you highlight Bochi there, but it's actually Bochi and Reva playing a 3-2 split with this Lucio Genji, which is something that I haven't seen a whole lot of in this meta, but it is really, really effective. If you can get, you know, all of that healing and speed onto the Genji, put out a lot of damage, and then have that sound wave to get that finishing blow, that is, like, insane value just for having this Lucio playing in this, you know, what would seem off-the-wall kind of way, but it's actually pretty standard in these macro comps.
Okay, early investment of Asusu here to save Wow Bob, and Diego, nice play there to try and get out. Excellent play on the leap. What elsewhere? Caught by Wi-Fi, who thus far is really proving their value as an aggressive Lucio, putting out a bunch of damage and finding those final blows as well. A double boop, yes, to keep everyone in the corner. Fifi's got the cleanup. Called for a cleanup on Isle. Li Zhang. Diego can't stand up against the masses of Shikigami, and finally the flip comes through.
So we talk about the 3-2 split, but how about a 4-1 split where you just send Wi-Fi off to be an assassin, find a kill that she has no business actually getting, and then coming back to the team successfully, having the sound barrier because of all the damage and because of those kills, beating Bochi to the punch on that. Now you're going to have that for What's Overclock, which she is coming up to, or any other host of ultimates that are coming up. There is a lot of checks about to come on board, a whole bowl of them.
Under my protection.
Bunch of checks, ready to go. Question is, where are the balances? It might be what? We can bring it in from this off angle, can just build up that rail for free, dodges away from the incoming danger. And remember, this is not as powerful a block as it was a couple of days ago. The hotfix is live. That forces Natfish to flee. Reinforcements called in. A huge amount of ultimates have hit the ground here. And there's lots to be happening as both Kitsune rushes increase fire rate, increase cooldown timers. And Natfish now can maybe be the final play here. Out comes a big old violent downpour. And it seems that as the dust settles, Hypnos should be able to keep this one going.
Yeah, both teams investing their downpour, and both of them find a fair bit of purchase. You saw the Genji's deflecting them. That's one of the reasons why you play the Genji, is because of his ability to deflect the downpour. Fun fact, he can actually deflect it and root another member of the enemy team with it if he hits them with the spike. So a lot of value that you get from that deflect. Unfortunately, it's not enough to keep Shikigami in the fight when that second downpour from Deer Girl comes through. Roots Natfish, you end up cleaning that one up. You do have both DPS ults coming up and a little bit of time before Reva has that Dragon Blade. I think maybe you just send Fifi in here early. Maybe if you can get a backliner, you're sitting pretty.
They want what? Can they find what is the question? Ankle's broken for a moment. That's going to be a dash reset given over as what falls on down. A nice finish there from Wow Bob. Should give another dash reset, but the blade's already over. And all they can do is look for help. It is not forthcoming. Diego holds the block. Fifi 1 against 2, but against the tank and the support, you don't have the staying power. Hypnos dig in their toes.
Yeah, and Shikigami have nothing in the bank now. That's both your DPS ultimates that Hypnos Isolus died quickly, so they were able to hold on to, and they still hold the point just through sheer force of hazard. Now you're gonna have Wi-Fi going in for a desperation touch here, but gonna pay for it.
Oh, a big old slice, a dice, and a rail to just be the additional punctuation mark at the end. Watts takes down Natfish and Shikigami. Their wild rush to the point has been punished thoroughly by Hypnos Isolus, who, with a little bit of a struggle, will manage to grab our first map.
So I had heard that Hypnos Iceless were struggling in this meta, you know, from their manager, but it kind of feels like maybe in the last day or so, or maybe it just today in the scrim blocks, they hit a revelation, because what I'm seeing is they understand this composition a lot better now. They're able to punish enemy Sojourns off on flanks. They're able to jump on top of them, find those assassinations, and set what up for success to be able to hit some of these big shots. They're also able to win out the duels when it comes to the Genjis. They're getting a lot more effective use out of their ultimates, and they're also playing a really interesting split on occasion with Bochi going off with Reva, and it is working out for this team. So, you know, this resembles, you know, it's not like perfect Hazard composition gameplay. You know, there's still some ironing out that I think does need to be done, but this is a lot closer than our previous series to what I expect to see from this meta.
Yeah, the 3-2 split is a classic from the ancient times, really. Oh, not so much ancient as I'd say one of the most popular and effective competitive history things we've seen from it was probably Proper and Violet on the old San Francisco Shock, often getting a lot of value out of playing a Tracer Zenyatta off angle to continuously win off angle duels or find isolated Tracers who can't stand up against both of them. And the same can be said here, like you said, of Bochi and Reva moving together. And I think that coming off of a macro meta like Malga, you can definitely catch some teams that have been a little bit used to looking for more value out of tight group ups and getting Juno's Ray to really win fights. You can surprise teams if you try and do like that two-person off angle where usually you'd only see a Sojourner or it'd only be a Genji. And this could be a great tactical insight into either how to deal with Hypnos or how Hypnos are going to get a lot more purchase.
Yeah, like, you know, we talk again about those macro metas where it is a lot about, like, getting the raise, but it's an adjustment for a lot of these teams. And I think, you know, even a couple days ago, it was one that Hypnos Iceless just didn't really have. Like, they hadn't made that adjustment. They also thought that it was a macro meta that they just hadn't really cracked, that they hadn't understood. But it seems like they have made that adjustment. They figured it out. It is a lot more on the micro and trying to set up your DPS to make these big plays, because you know, Hazard does have a lot of sustainability, but he doesn't have, like, sustainability for a whole death ball in the way that Malga does. And you can't just, you know, heal bot on a Juno forever until you have an orbital ray and suddenly I have this big fight-winning ultimate. No, your backline actually has to have survivability now and playmaking potential of their own. Otherwise, they're going to get farmed. They're going to get jumped on by a Hazard who's just going to slice them clean in half with those razor spikes, or, you know, live in the backline forever being a threat. You eventually have to deal with that spike guard that thankfully is no longer 75%, but is still quite a bit of damage reduction and also a fair bit of outgoing damage onto your backline as well.
Yeah, it can be a lot of pressure, especially against a stacked backline as well, because it does do damage to everybody who's within that radius. But like you said, the changes in the hotfix may change a couple of calculuses and breakpoints when it comes to how these Hazards are going to be managing their own engagement. We saw that happen once to Dear Girl on Night Market with a slight overextension from her. Maybe think she had a touch more survivability against two supports and the counter Hazard than she ended up having, but I think that was also credit to a nice wall that came out as well from the opposing Hazard. And there's this constant mind game, right, between the Hazards and the walls as well, where you're like, oh, am I going to use my wall defensively for some cover? We've seen it a couple of times, or am I just going to play entirely for the block-offs, maybe for even a knockabout as well that we've seen a couple of times.
It's an ability that has a lot of potential. I think a lot of people will mentally default to using it the same way you use a main wall, which is to try and block someone's exit so they have no choice but to take the engagement with you. And that's a great way to use it. But, you know, you can also use it just for the knockback, just for the damage, or, you know, to try and give yourself a better leap to try and go in for a big jump. We don't actually see a whole lot of players going for things like that. I do know that there are a lot of players that have picked up on the fact that it is useful not just on the ground, but if you shoot it at, like, the wall, like, people will be sitting there and aiming at like around corners, just waiting for the opportune moment to launch it and then hit their attack. As we go into the next map here, though, it's going to be Shikikami's map pick, and I'm curious because a lot of these teams, right, have gone for Suravasa. It's what we saw in the previous series. It's what we saw in LCQ. I'm curious if they break the mold and they go to hybrid, or if they try to skip the line, take us to an escort instead. I'm worried, though, if they go to Suravasa, though, because I think that sets what up for a lot of these angles where WoW Bob hasn't really been up to snuff. In fact, we're going to go to Blizzard Worlds. We're
going to Blizzard Entertainment.
Yeah, we're going. All right. I'll meet you all there. We're going to HQ. We're gonna talk to Aaron Keller ourselves, and we're gonna say, hey, this Hazard hero, love him. He's perfect. No notes.
10 out of 10. Lots of fun. Registered trademark.
Yeah.
I mean, As it looks incredibly charming. Voice actors did a fantastic job on that. So another great win for the Overwatch audio team on Hazard. And he's been certainly a key ingredient in our current meta. He has come out in a very strong state, and I really like the mechanics on the slice as well. It feels like good players during that leap can get their APM all the way up and really create these kind of no-win scenarios for an enemy squishy if they find themselves in a position where they can be leapt by that Hazard. And it creates the need for a lot of discipline and good information gathering when it comes to these fights as well, to make sure that you are constantly able to note the potential paths of approach that a Hazard can take.
There we go. No longer going just to Blizzard. Now we're going to Blizzard World, which is going to be our first taste of hybrid over here in North America since we've transitioned over to this Hazard meta. And this is one of those situations where I do still see a lot of teams lean towards the Hazard, but I think the map geometry does also allow for some other methods of play if you want to try and go that route. I don't know if either of these teams are really prepared to make that adjustment. I kind of expect this will still just kind of be a Hazard mirror, but you're going to have to try and play it a little bit more dive, slightly less brawl than you would on a Lijiang Tower.
Yeah, slightly more diving, trying to get onto those high grounds, remove these safe positions where you'll often see an enemy squishy be playing. One of the things about Blizzard World First is that it's very monodirectional. Achieving good flanks is fairly difficult on Blizzard World First. Your options are incredibly limited, and if you want to try and get to a high ground to try and play a two-person off angle, you do have to go through a couple of chokes that are very easy to exploit to do so. So maybe this will lend itself to a touch more deathball-y play, which is not beyond the skill set of Hazard. But when I say deathball, I don't mean like the composition of the heroes you'd play as a deathball, but more like just moving as a blob to have the safety of the Hazard threat as well as for Sojourn threat, stopping people from peeking you too early.
Yeah, I kind of expect, on this map we're going to see a lot less of those like 3-2 splits, because like you said, it's very monodirectional. There's a couple of flank routes, but they're, for the most part, flank routes that are pretty easily checked. So it's going to depend a lot more on, who's getting the more effective dives. And speaking of dives, Shikigami, they're going all in on El Clasico dive. We're finally getting a little bit of Winston here, which I have also seen on this map. The problem with Winston, though, is it's one of the situations where it's kind of like a Roadhog, where it's like, you can't take a duel with the enemy tank. You cannot get yourself in a situation because Hazard will just chew you up and spit you out. You have to try and go for the backliners, and you have to try and play safe around that.
Gotta try and do so. Get another substitution coming through here from the side of Hypnos. We are bringing in Playtoys, also known, I believe, as Abby?
Oh, these graphics are switched, by the way. That is Shikigami on the attack, actually. So Playtoys, Abby on the team there with Wow Bob. That is, by the way, clear in the backline for Hypnos Iceless on the defense there. That is the Korean talent that I was highlighting. She's been coming to play this Ana, and this is another one of those maps where you do have some high grounds where you can set an Ana up effectively, especially with Bochi there on the Brigitte.
Okay, yeah, clear. Just going to be pocketed here by the Brigitte. This is going to be a big boon for them, but here comes the big rotation. And now counter rotation on the cards, just waiting to get confirmation that it is indeed not a double pump and a fake that comes out. Playtoy's going to commit to it, so it's going to be a scurry away for the older woman in the back line. Going to be trying to take down Playtoys at range here. That forces out the Suzu, and guess what? The Antonator's in, but it's going to be a miss from Clear. That could be a critical miss on the Bardic Grenade and give time to reflect and time to repair for Playtoys. But they have lost Wi-Fi. Down a singular support, but there is still already a tick that's been given over. A well-placed Sleep tries to force out the Suzu, and indeed it will get it. In comes the Bardic Grenade. Once again, that's going to be a miss. Playtoys is avoiding these as they come in. Excellent noting of Clear, who is so incredibly low, finally starts to get that little bit of health adjustment, but the biggest health adjustment comes from Wow Bob by the means of a Rail Raver down as well. But Dear Girl is going to be basically unbothered here as they take out the Sojourn.
I mean, Clear lives for so long there. I mean, what's going to finally get taken down, and Shikigami's respawns are going to be coming through, but Dear Girl is able to hold on. Again, so there was a jagged wall that came out from Playtoys to try and section off the backline, and it ends up killing Bochi. So even without that break, Clear lives for a long time. She's able to get up so much healing. But with the cavalry coming back, Dear Girl not going to be able to survive.
Investment here from Shikigami. They want to put the end to this right now, and with Raver falling down, indeed it shall be so. Fifi contemplates for chase, but remember that the chase capacity of Deer Girl is going to be a lot higher than Playtoy. She's got far more limited mobility even with that leap.
And going back to Clear surviving earlier on in that penultimate fight before the point was captured, she lives for a long time, but she's not actually able to get a whole lot of healing because she's on the run, so she's a little bit behind on that nano boost, but doesn't really have to sweat it too much since Holly used the Kitsune Rush. That's her contemporary, using that just to be able to cap the point here. You have some time to build that nano, pop it onto Deer Girl, and go in with an organized dive here with Reva. Looks like that's exactly what they want to do. They have to try and keep one alive, though, because they need that pressure from the high ground to follow up.
A little bit of pressure coming through onto Fifi, removing them from the high ground. Big nade coming through. Holly's going to answer it, of course, with the Suzu. Not going to be available. It's all about the next nade. Hypnos Isolus playing that second stage of defense. Not much HP here for the Primal Winston. Deer Girl forced to try and escape. Tries to take the high ground away. Yes, that overclock is going to quickly tear through the shield, and the rails indeed will quickly tear through Winston as Deer Girl finds themselves far away from the sight lines and auspices of clear. The remainder of Hypnos Isolus can't stand up against this rush, and Shikigami claim even more space.
Yeah, so like Reva goes in and dies, so you can't really follow up on Deer Girl's jump there, and Clear also never puts the nano onto Deer Girl. She's forced to pop the Primal Rage in that small enclosure, takes a lot of damage, inevitably jumps out, and now you've given over all this space to Shikigami. Sound barrier gonna come out from Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi reinforces the blade. A little bit of Beat Saber coming on out. The nano mace is stronger, though. Can you get to a point in time, though? An attempt to try and root Brigitte. The shield angled upwards. Maybe wanting to break it was Abby. And the remainder of Shikigami might well be getting it done. What up against the world? Playtoys does not have the HP to make this work, but there's a bit of cap. Oh, the discipline on the car wasn't quite there. What was forced away? It was all about the knockback coming through from that spiky wall from Hazard.
And it seems like a hero play from What, but there is still one casualty that you could not avoid. Wi-Fi actually going to go over to the Mercy just to get a quick res there, swap back over onto the Lucio, which Bochi, by the way, has mirrored. There was a great play from her, by the way, to use the shield to block that downpour. It's a great usage of that ability, but despite all the heroics from Bochi and from What, it's just not enough to stop the cap from coming through, and Shikigami are going to be really happy about that, especially considering how both ult banks are currently drained.
Yeah, going to be a lot of focus on Wild Boss here to try and get something happening with that overclock. It's going to be the first one to rise, but instead does it with the Vanilla Rail, taking down Bochi. Hypnos Isolus on this defense have absolutely collapsed.
This is where the Ana is going to be kind of a detriment because you're never going to get an opportunity to set her up in an advantageous place. In fact, Fifi's just going to go in and take her down outright.
Yeah. Fifi, punished for their audacity, yes, but has created a big stalling effect on Hypnos Isolus coming out here to try and touch this cart. Deer Girl's going to have to put their block on the line for it, and that means that it might not be available when Wow Bob finally levies what's been built here with the overclock.
Clear has to try and go for a big play here. You're getting up close to the nano. Now that we swapped over onto the hazard, a nano into a hazard, we've seen how lethal it can be, but the dive's already coming out from Hypnos. Great sleep dart, though.
That's going to require a Suzu, but I don't know if it's available. Indeed, it's not going to be delivered thus far. Bochi with the pair here, trying to match up to Wi-Fi when it comes to aggressive Lucio plays. An excellent execution of a defensive play, catching out Playtoys on her way in. Means that Isolus will stand strong for now.
This is looking pretty good for them now because you have that nano boost. You can pop that onto Deer Girl, and she will be able to build up to a downpour off of that, able to match the deficit that Playtoys has set up. You're going to be having the sound barrier here before Wi-Fi has access to it, a Dragon Blade before Fifi has access to it. You just have to worry about Fifi getting access to Clear, because when Fifi gets onto that Ana and gets the kill onto her, it is over for Hypnos.
Relies on Fifi. That's not too much room here on the Kitsune Rush. Here comes the downpour. It seems to have been deflected, but Rave, I don't know if they routed anyone in return. Out comes the blade. The nano might well be over soon, but that's going to be a sound barrier to answer it here. The staying power is solid. Bochi's in the back. Access to that backline might well be dangerous, but the TP away should be rather rapid here from the side of Shikigami. A touch on the point is demanded from Isolus, and it's going to be Deer Girl who gets her feet on the objective for now. Playtoy is going to be the #1 customer. Can you get close enough to keep this contest? The block off of the Sojourn is not going to be enough. The deflect, yes, will allow the Genji to stay for a moment longer, but staying a while and listening is not all you can do. Shikigami with a minute, over a minute on their time bank.
If you're Hypnos Isolus, like, I understand the temptation to want to go for the Nano Blade, and I don't think that was plan A for them. If it was, I think it was a little bit misguided because you were going up against a sound barrier on the other side regardless. The play definitely needed to be to put the Nano Boost onto Deer Girl, But, I mean, Deer Girl ended up going in a little bit too deep, got walled off by Playtoy, so Clear didn't even have that option on the table and understood that without the tank, her life's on the clock. I gotta get this Nano out onto somebody before I end up on the chopping block. So you send it out to your Genji, who doesn't quite have the blade yet. Wi-Fi is able to get the boop, pop the sound barrier, come out clean, unscathed from that ultimate, and Shikigami end up capping with time. A minute and a half on Blizzard World is definitely nothing to sneeze at. And it's just these kind of small forced errors that they're able to draw out of Hypnos Iceless that they can capitalize on.
I mean, any completion at all on Blizzard World is nothing to raise your nose at. We've seen so many holds on Blizzard World, one of our more defensively favored maps, I'd say. Amongst the map pool, completion's fairly rare in general. Everyone's... one of the things I love about this... Calling All Heroes is everyone getting to show off their favorite skins. Some tributes here, of course. I believe Clear is actually playing in their shoe skin at the moment on the Ana. Playing the Gladiators Ana themselves. What goes for an early attempt at a pick. The shield given over as well from the Zai. Not going to get too much, and we're back to standard. Oh.
Okay, yeah.
Character assassination from the observers.
Not the best pathing there. You definitely want to go for the high ground. Don't want to go subterranean with that Sojourn. That's not where she thrives. And this is not where Deer Girl is going to thrive. Great wall there onto Playtoys, but not able to confirm the kill. Too much pressure coming out onto Deer Girl. Have to try and play safe, but we do get another crack at things. And now that what is on ground level, we're able to get a little bit of a forward presence here. Oh!
That's a very critical duel win there for what? A lot of the pressure's now gone, but Holly and Playtoy say, we are the pressure. Raver and Bochi might have been playing around the back as that two-stack we were talking about before, but they both lost their duels against the just defensive bulwark of Shikigami. Playtoy has to go to the sky for a little moment longer. What? Just continues to get pick after pick. Yeah, their counterpart will be returning soon in the form of WoW Boss, is able to build up that rail rather quickly, but Playtoys has to be noted. Playtoys falling low, can't risk getting booped off. Finds Clear in the midst of all of this, and Clear manages to TP away to safety. WoW Bombs and Holly both taken out by the Spike Guard of Deer Girl. Hypnos seem to have won every duel they go for.
Yeah, and a lot of it is off the back of those pickoffs from what that you just never expect to happen. And this is why I talk about how it has to be the DPS playmakers and what is the prime player to bring Hypnos Iceless to the forefront here, because she has been a mainstay on this Sojourn for a very long time, kind of a sleeper pick in the entirety of Calling All Heroes. She was, you know, at times looked like the carry for Vancouver Titans Blue last year when she played, whenever she was able to pop off on the Sojourn. She can go head-to-head with some of the best, and if she's able to keep getting the better of WoW Bob in these exchanges, Hypnos Iceless can ride that wave.
Bochi caught out early, but with the Kitsune Rush invested, both teams are unwilling to give this one up early. Playtoys falls before she gets access to that ultimate. A big old slice. Oh, a little turnaround with the root. Wi-Fi is down. Deer Girl thinks it's winnable, but the block isn't that good. It's strong, but it ain't that strong.
We got Wi-Fi. It's a Pyrrhic victory, but yeah, I mean, we got our one, I guess, and it cost us the downpour to do it. One that Playtoys is going to be able to match now on the attack here. Wolf Lucio's coming up on their sound barriers, going to be hoping that they don't get caught up in the downpour, or they're able to get their sound barriers off at the opportune moment to save their teams. Otherwise, it's going to be the Suzu forced out, and the Genjis that are going to end up being the ones to make the difference next.
The difference makers. We see once again that two-player hit squad coming through from Raver and Bochi, but while they're away, it's going to be Fifi who plays Finding What early. Eyes onto the Kiriko, blades and spikes onto the Kiriko as well. Hypnos Iceless from every single angle seem to find a Shikigami member.
I mean, angles that they don't expect, you know, even though that's a lost fight for Shikigami, Fifi did so much work in both that fight and the previous one. She's been a constant threat in the backline, finding some of these duels and getting picks clean. She has the Dragon Blade, but hasn't been needing to use it yet. Deer Girl, hello, what are you doing back here?
Here goes the blade. Sound barrier just in time here from Wi-Fi. Nice dodge to make sure that all of that incoming CC from a hazard is going to be dealt with. Still, everyone survives. The blade, courtesy of the sound barrier. Bochi invested their own here as well, so there's not going to be as much to deal with Fifi's blade when that's finally emerging.
going to be putting a lot of weight onto both What with this overclock and Clear with the Suzu. I mean, maybe you get a good boot from Bochi to try and negate this blade, but if you're Fifi, you got to be feeling really good about this because you farmed up that blade a while ago and you keep winning these duels without having it forced out of you. Now you have it at this key moment where you can win a fight, maybe bleed an entire minute off of this time bank if you pace it right. You only really have to worry about your the rest of your formation getting caught off guard with a clear Kitsune rush.
Oh, Fifi's already grabbed Bochi. That's no boots now to try and deal with the blade, but do you really want to invest it when you're already a player up is the question here. Shikigami, for now, will play this a little bit more reserved, just gating away access to that cart. A trade blockade of Naboo has been given over, and that can only mean one thing, solid defense.
And like you said, Shikigami, like, you don't want to invest when you're up a man, but you also, if you're Hypnos, you don't want to invest when you're down a man. You might just sneak away with the cart entirely. Do they know? All right, Wow Bob has figured it out, but is it going to be enough?
Finally, Wi-Fi going to join that one out. Doesn't seem like there's going to be any roots off the back of the downpour given over from the side of Dear Girl. Apart from Holly, of course, who just dies to the ultimate itself. Wow Bob now found Dear Girl. Eventually finds the business end of a spiky wall, and in the end, Shikigami, he should be able to round on the cart here and just remove Hypnos.
I mean, they avoid disaster with Wow Bob dropping to the low ground there. DT pops the Dragon Blade, so if you're Hypnos Iceless, like, even though you lose that fight, you still feel pretty good about it because you're able to build out that, or draw out that ultimate. You get a fair bit of card percentage, and now Shikigami have to kind of respect that possibility. Like, Reva's probably not going to try that again, but Shikigami have to be like, okay, well, what if she does, though? Like, we got to keep our head on a swivel. We can't get away with that. You know, we just can't let them sneak away with the card again.
Oh, what if she do, though? Already forcing out that Suzu. Could be critical. What? Down to 21 HP. The back cap attempt once again has to be answered by Shikigami, and it's answered with force. Sound barrier hits the floor. Volume turned up. Play toys too low. The healing couldn't be delivered. It's all about what playing from his little alcove. The little sojourn that could Suzu burn yet again. And these supports are not going to be long for this world. They have to touch the spiky wall, but mum, it hurts my hands.
It's just that forced error, you know? Again, the threat of the back cap comes through, and Shikigami have to try and play a lot more defensively than they obviously would like to. They want to go aggressive, they want to set the tempo, but they have to use their resources just to stop the cap. And so Play Toys ends up really low on HP. Dear Girl still has the leaps, the walls, everything you could possibly want. Full resource on the Spike Guard. Can go in aggressively, get those opening picks, and Hypnos Iceless can follow up on all of that positioning and all of that damage with just a couple more shots from What.
Early play. Off of this overclock. Wow Bob wants access to the hazard. Not the ideal target, I've got to say it. Out comes Hypnos Iceless with the sound barrier, the blade. So much damage! Rooted in place, yes! But Raven might have already done too much. The disengagement has forced Shikigami out of their premium positions and into these more passive ones, which is going to allow for some progress on the cart. Already Hypnos, though, are at a time bank deficit.
I mean, props to Play Toys, because the timing on that downpour was near perfect. There was 1 second away from the deflect being available for Reva. You would have seen a lot more value coming out from that blade if she had access to that. Could have potentially rooted some of the members of Shikigami, but they dodged that bullet. But here comes another one, or several, from the sky.
Attempted to deflect, doesn't seem to connect just thus far. Going to be a battle for all of it on the point right now. They want the Genji. Genji just going to crawl away as best they can. Falls back into a spike trap, though. A big old slice, but it does not dice. And it has to be Play Toys who sticks her feet on the cart, digs in her heels and say, no, make me move. And Dear Girl is more than happy to be the predator this time. I'm done being the prey. Dear Girl finds everyone and everything they could possibly ask for. And with a little bit of time remaining, Hypnos Iceless shall find themselves a completion.
Dear Girl looks so good on this hazard right now. A lot of these opening plays are coming off the back of her just jumping in and finding a pickoff. And I also got to give props to What for the damage she's been able to put out on this Sojourn, the rail shots that she's been able to find out of seemingly nowhere. It's a lot of these picks and some of these forced errors coming out, especially on point B, the Streets phase, that end up getting Hypnos Iceless the cap in the end. Unfortunately, it's not enough time in the time bank to match Shikigami, so Hypnos are going to have to go first this next time and set themselves up for success. We'll see what they're able to get here. But I mean, like, if you're Shikigami, you're probably afraid of What at this point in time, because really it's just one rail shot that she gets and it could be over. Like, that could be the first domino that falls, and then suddenly you have to try and match whatever Hypnos brings to the table on your attack. And you know, we talked about 1 minute and 30. That's going to go up to 1 minute 57 for them, nearly 2 minutes. That's still only half of a regular round, and sometimes it takes teams like 2-3 minutes to even get like a tick. So that's not a guarantee. You really need to play around What's rail shots here and not let her get a good angle, not let her build up that charge so easily.
Yeah, this is about discipline from Shikigami. removing what's potential to find those picks, but also about Hypnos buying the space for what to try and find those as well. If you're going for this two-person kill squad with Bochi and Raver, it does mean that Clear is going to have to kind of like pick their babies between Deergirl and What, right? Because What's going to be under this constant pressure to try and remove her from these angles where she's been getting so much value.
What's interesting is that Hypnos are once again neglecting the Ana on the attack. Again, just sticking with Clear on the Kiriko, sticking with what is essentially the meta. What has that angle off to the left-hand side again, and you have Reva over here on the right. So it's going to be kind of one of those deals, you know. You see Bochi and Reva going in. There's that split.
Yep, Wild Bob under pressure. Once again, falling low. Is coming in from the other side is the Hazard. Deergirl tries to force him off the high ground. Is successful in doing so. Finding Playtoys who tries to move back and really give some peel over to the remainder of their team. It's a scrappy fight. 3v3 now. Plenty of support still there for Deergirl, who can hold this space, because if it's a 3v3 and one team has a Hazard, guess what? It's not a 3v3.
Yeah, but you've given up 2 ticks, and that split that comes out from Bochi and Reva, even though you lose Bochi, it gives so much value. They're going to get the entire first point off of that. It forces everyone off the high ground back, so they can't support Playtoys, who has to be the one contesting the point. She falls. Deergirl goes in, like you said, finds so much value with this Hazard, is able to clean up, and now Hypnos Iceless can get the cart rolling here, and Shikigami don't really seem to have any answers for it just yet.
Cards on the table. Playtoys doing their best to contest. Actually blocked off for a moment by that wall. Could have been some cover given over to themselves. Oh, the Afuda are on the way, but the Ray moves faster. Wild Bob finds exactly the pick that was needed. Raver next up on the docket, potentially moving forward with the Kitsune Rush. Playtoys is too far gone. There was no breaking on that wall. Raver, Wi-Fi! No, the Ajax! Unreal! Still, the remainder of Shikigami have done enough. In the end, it was a distractionary ultimate. I meant for that to happen.
I meant for the Wi-Fi to disconnect at that exact moment. I meant for that to Ajax. It was totally tactical. I mean, so that was near disaster had it not been for a couple of those early kills there. That very well could have been a lost fight for Shikigami and a lot more cart progress for Hypnos Iceless. That early pick that came out onto Bochi meant that Clear got a lot more healing and was able to get ahead in the Kitsune Rush charge. You pop the Kitsune Rush, you could have matched it with Wi-Fi Sound Barrier, but that goes awry. But unfortunately, the last members of Hypnos who had not yet fallen and could take advantage of that Kitsune Rush were a little bit too far off the cart to stay in contention. But like you said, they've done enough. With only a minute, they captured the entire point and also got a fair bit of cart progress. Shikigami now have only 2 minutes to try and match that. And we saw how quickly Hypnos can do it, therefore Shikigami, in theory, could do just the same. But are they going to be able to execute that? Because a lot of it has been on the back of these 3-2 splits that we've seen Bochi and Reva go for, or rail shots that we've seen What hit. We haven't seen those same levels of strategy come out of Shikigami. It's been Playtoys that's been the one setting up a lot of these, or Wi-Fi going on these crazy assassinations. And can you really rely on your Lucio to get those big kills in these clutch moments?
One of the things I'm going to be looking at here is how Hypnos play their positioning with this composition, noting that previously they were playing defensively with the Brigitte and the Ana. Whereas this time, they're sticking to the standard, which they might not have practiced as much. Admittedly, they will have practiced this composition plenty, but maybe not so much on this point defensively.
Giving up the Ana, I think, is both smart. It's an adjustment. It's no longer Shikigami playing into the same thing twice with the intel. They get Reva really low there, and Deergirl as well. Hypnos has to give a little bit of space here. That's an early pick.
Yeah, that is a huge pick there from Playtoys. Oh, the entire support line has collapsed. Oh, no, it's all gone to pot.
Yeah, die fast. Yeah, die on the point, bleed out time, and then die fast. Do not stagger, because you do still have a little bit of extra time here. Yeah, that's a good kill there. I don't think it's going to amount to much, though.
It's still a Hazard, and Hazard can never be counted out in these situations. A momentary bit of cover given over. There's still contest going over on the point. Clear is returned in good time. That's what happens when both your supports die together, I suppose. Both a TP and a speed boost to get them back. And Deergirl, excellent playing of their life right there. Some great resource management.
Yeah, and yeah, they don't even give up a tick. I mean, the fact that you're not able to dislodge Deergirl and you can test for so long means that all of Hypnos are back. Clear has so much more of an advantage towards that Kitsune Rush. You lose Bochi again, but I mean, you might still be able to win this.
Well, this time Deergirl is the one who goes down, which could be critical. Don't shoot that deflect. That'd be a silly way to lose this. Wi-Fi manages to get yet another final blow. Finds What on the end. Playtoys with the finish. And despite Wild Bob going down, it should be a forward spawn for her. 30 seconds still on the clock, by the way. So a lot of luxury when it comes to setting up these fights and moving forward.
You can see Bochi understands that she has to be the one to try and get the touch, and Playtoys goes in to try and stop that. Shikikami, they're going to swap over, sorry, Deer Girl is going to swap over onto the Doomfist to try and get a touch there. There's the slam. This is the last stand here, but Kitsune Rush is coming up.
Oh, and Powered Punch doesn't get anything. Now it has to be the Genji who goes in alongside Velucio to try and make this work. Fifi popping off is absolutely faced with the apocalypse here, and they ride into it with a flaming skull. Shikikami on their offense managed to bring it back 1-1.
Fifi is just like so good on the Genji in the neutral. Like, she's finding these kills in like critical moments where you really do have to rely on your Genji to be the one to try and make these plays, and a lot of it is on Bochi. You saw Bochi was never able to sit comfortably, was never able to fulfill the role of the Lucio, and even when she like, is just rolling up, never saw that coming. Like, Fifi just goes absolutely crazy with these right clicks. It's so insane that she's able to find this, and all of that, by the way, again, happens off the back of Playtoys going in with these hazards. The hazards are going in and they're finding some of these kills. Again, on Bochi getting caught out, it's either the hazard or the Genji, but Shikikami, they're able to match us up here.
Yeah, this is, we could be cooking a 5-map series, which, honestly, after such a quick 3-0, we kind of deserve CB.
As a treat, yeah.
We gotta get some progress on these drops, my guys.
Yeah, there's people who are still 0% to Monarch Venture. They want to see it.
It's a great look at our highlights from that game. We started off with the interesting Winston pick, which honestly never really managed to gain much traction when it came to the defense. It was such a quick first point take, as far as I remember, coming through from the side of Shikikami. And they did manage to adapt eventually, just going back to the meta composition. Seems like they haven't been able to grant their own meta just yet, but what really impressed me in this one, even with the loss.
I do think that the Winston composition on maps like Blizzard World does have some wheels to it, but I mean, I just don't think it was executed properly. I'd have to see it, you know, executed to its fullest potential. But when you have Playtoys and when you have Fifi just going in and finding kills that it feels like they have no business being able to find, it's kind of hard to ever get like a dive comp executed properly, because dive comps take a minute or two to set up. Not like a minute or two, but like, you know, you got to be ready. You got to understand like who you're jumping on, where you're going to be jumping from, have everybody on the same page. It's kind of hard to get everyone on the same page when half of them are dead because of a Genji that no one is equipped to deal with.
Watching Fifi be forced to start the reload animation, looking at a rooted 1 HP Kiriko. Oh, I feel like that's a nightmare that's going to recur in my dreams.
It's like watching someone like really hungry trying to eat with chopsticks and they can't quite grab it. It's like, oh,
yeah. Like in nightmare logic, that's where like your bind for quick melee doesn't work, you know? Like my mouse button's broken. No, come back. Change of map, change of mode. This is going to be Hypnos once again being able to decide where we go. And they might just try and lean into our classic meta versus meta here and not go for anything spicy.
I mean, you know, if you're Hypnos Isolism, you know, you could try and play another map where maybe you can get away with that Winston composition. I think a lot of the escort maps will kind of play into that. You know, you do have like Route 66, where I have seen some teams come out with the Winston and it has worked pretty successfully. And again, I've also seen Hazard a lot on that map, and wouldn't you know it, that's also been quite successful. I think Dorado is another kind of like oddball in the escort kind of composition. I feel like maybe if you're Hypnos, you want to try and avoid the push clash, because those can kind of get a little bit more brawly, and you kind of have a little bit more of those flank threats where a Genji like Fifi could really be a thorn in your side, and you don't really want to worry about that too much. Havana is where we're going to go. This is a really interesting one, okay? I know the haters hate Havana, and rightfully so, but in this meta, it's really interesting, because this is one of those places where Hazard just doesn't really work.
Yeah, like Havana's long sight lines can make things rather troublesome for a Hazard. So you have to try and rotate around that from the attacker's perspective through that left-hand side bar. And the doors out of a bar are the perfect size to be locked down by a Hazard block. So defensively, maybe there's a little bit more legs for Hazard here than offensively. Of course, Havana did get some recent changes to try and make it a little bit more friendly to shorter range heroes compared to the Widow Haven we had previously. And Widow has recently been nerfed in the hotfix, no longer benefit from the global projectile changes while scoped in.
It's also, in theory, a lot more difficult to spawn hold with the way that they've changed the attacker spawn on Havana, but we also haven't seen a whole lot of Havana being played competitively. I don't know that it's been in any map pools up till this point, because every time it is, there's riots and pitchforks outside of Blizzard HQ. Fortunately, everyone was on holiday this time around when they announced it, so they were too cold. They couldn't go to... They were just like, okay, I'm mad, but I'm gonna stay inside and grind the map anyway, I suppose. But, like...
Gonna grumble merrily.
I don't like it, but I can't do much about it because it's winter time and no one's at the office anyway, so I do kind of suspect though that it will actually be harder to go for a spawn hold. I think you might still see like Sigma double sniper or Sigma poke comps on this map. I think that's what kind of feels like it should still be the best on this map, but we'll have to see because we don't really have as much data on like the new and improved quotations under approved Havana.
I think it's improved. I mean, I still don't like Havana, but I think the map has definitely improved. At the end, there's not much you can do about minimizing the defensive qualities of a legitimate fortress. Turns out
to be
they're fairly hard to attack.
Yeah.
This fortress is quite difficult to attack. Who could have seen
practically
this coming?
impregnable. What do we do?
I'm surprised that, you know, on the redesign of Havana, like, Talon openly fly their flags on this fortress, and it seems like they are legitimately, like, 200 meters from the civic center of Cuba, who seem to not care.
I also like the idea of Talon just owning a castle. Like, like, it feels very out of character for them. They're like this, like, evil kind of shadowy organization. They just got a castle, you know?
You know. We have one of those. What good is a villain without a lair?
Reaper, load the howitzers. We have intruders at our extent.
Man the cannons. You reckon Reaper could brutally load a cannon?
I think he'd be pretty upset. Like, he'd do it reluctantly, as he does most things. But yeah, I think he could. Like, he's got to have some, like, the muscles to be able to, like, load up a cannon. I don't know how much a cannonball weighs. I assume a lot. I was unfortunately born in like this generation where I've never had to see a cannonball. Usually these days we deal with like missiles and stuff instead, but...
Oh, you would have popped off in the 14th century, you know?
Yeah, I joined the Navy way too late, yeah.
Welcome to Havana, ladies and gentlemen. The overyap is almost done. The game is nearly here. 1-1 between Shikigami and Hypnos Isolus. Neither team wants to be going down early to that loser's bracket.
Yeah, and okay, that's attacker spawn. This kind of tracks with what I kind of expect to see. Double flex support backline with a Sigma as the tank. Although we're still sticking with the Sojourn and the Genji, which I think also kind of makes sense. Sojourn is going to be pretty well versed in some of these medium to long range sight lines, especially if she's still able to build up to the rail shots. I think there's a chance she could be outclassed here by a good Widowmaker or a good Ashe. What has at times popped off on the Widowmaker, so I'm not entirely expecting her to jump off of that pick just yet. Maybe if she comes under threat or can't get around Natfish's shield, which, by the way, that's another sub coming in for Shikigami. You got Natfish there. You can't get around the shield, maybe you swap, but I do kind of expect the Widow to be favored here.
Yeah, and it's risk-free to go for the Widow right at the beginning, because you're so close to your spawn, you're gonna... like, for you to be punished, you have to go into a relatively aggressive position on the defense to make that happen. But Zenyatta here is certainly going to be something that I'm really interested in, as this is going to levy a huge amount of shield pressure between these teams while slowly moving up. And even with that global projectile size nerf coming through, seems to be able to hitting those headshots on the Sigma. An exchange between the Genjis. Oh, that's a very early usage of the Immortality Field. Wi-Fi might want that one back.
Yeah, What gonna go ahead and punish that one with a headshot there onto Wow Bob. Doesn't really matter how big the projectile is, as long as it can still pierce a skull. And if you're What and your target is true, it damn sure can.
Those skulls looking very pierceable right now. What gonna
Unlike
make
the
their
fortress
swing?
on point C.
Ah, yes, impregnable, they said. What? Shot after shot for now. Mostly just connecting on the body, keeping that pressure up. Of course, Widow can levy quite a bit of pressure against their healers. Just, oh, wow, hello. Nice angle coming through. Good play from Natfish. Forces what off of that one. And once again, it's going to be a spicy duel on the back between the Genjis, but Rava wins it. And this seems like it's going to be the collapse of Shikigami.
And it's just like that early pickoff there from What onto Wow Bob, you like lose so much ability to command any space because there's no longer that threat of any of the primary fire or the rail shots that comes through from the Sojourn. And then Reva's able to get access into that building where you do have a good flank and access onto Shikigami's backline. Now it's going to be a lot more on Reva's shoulders. This is where a Widow can still find some good shots that you can get up on top of the boilers, but it's mostly going to be trying to give the aid over, set up some kills for Reva to get a good dash.
Held for a moment. That's a very far back. Was that a miss on the window from Wi-Fi? So we'll check the VOD and have a look at all the way back there. Not ideal. In the end, though, Wow Bob trying their best to duel against an over-aggressive Zenyatta. A touch of, this is for me, Transcendence right there. Holly saves themselves from the incoming damage as well. Here's the exchange coming forth, dragged up into the air, and guess what? No Transcendence this time, punished for their arrogance. But Fifi can't win against the two supports. Clear and Bochi just save themselves. I don't need no hero. I am the hero.
Both backlines getting pretty active there. Like, Wi-Fi and Holly also showing up in the kill feed. Unfortunately, this time they're on the business end of it, and Hypno's Iceless are going to keep this cart rolling. But, I mean, you're talking about, you know, Clear getting punished for the hubris of using that Transcendence too early, but then she goes through and just kills Natfish outright and completely shuts that one down. The kills come through, and Hypno's, look at the positioning, just trying to stuff Shikigami in these doorways, not allow them to come in and contest the cart. We've already got it where it's only about 1-1 fight, and this blade could be it.
Oh, this is so aggressive. Not much HP to work with. The Emma Fields exchange, yes, as Raven just tries to keep the enemy team at bay. The cart's rolling in. Aggressing here to try and touch would have been too dangerous. So it's going to be Shikigami backing off, saying, okay, we'll just hold the fortress for 5 minutes, which isn't out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, it's quite impregnable, as I've heard. Dear Girl, though, just farming. That's your backline completely gone. Like, late kills onto both your Baptiste and your Zen. That's not ideal, especially if a lot of forward pressure comes out here onto Natfish. Unfortunately, Hypno's not really in a position to get some extra damage there, so you will have that backline back. But What is kind of entrenched exactly where she wants to be, where she has complete overlook over all of the sight lines that Shikigami needs to control. Currently, they don't have any. Ooh, a couple of orbs, though. They can take it right back.
Yeah, the lack of damage drop off on Zenyatta is so important for trying to force out that Widowmaker. If you're brave enough to try and take those angles, wow, Bob finally managing to pierce that barrier. Now is to try and hit those toes with some well-placed shots. Out comes an attempt at using the amplification matrix, and Wi-Fi gets it in the right place this time to levy the damage onto the attackers.
Hypnos, they hold on to everything, and you force out both the Ant Matrix and the Overclock from the side of Shikigami, which, you know, pretty economic fight win there. They do need to bleed off a lot of time in this time bank, and they always have to be wary of What and wherever she's lurking, because one quick headshot, especially onto Holly right now, would be absolutely massive if you take that Transcendence out. Oh, that wasn't a headshot, but was very close. Maybe that was the projectile size coming through.
Oh, jumps into the Gravitic Flux just to make sure that Natfish doesn't feel bad. Taken out of the air as well. Headshots from Wi-Fi. Going to be able to grab that one, but an attempt to try and clutch this out still. On top of the cart is the amplification matrix. Bochi takes to the skies, and Wow Bob's like, oh, ski shooting, is it? Don't mind if I do. There are defensive picks here. Oh, but What? Unable to connect on the Sky High Widowmaker. The cart is still moving here, so it's all good progress for Iceless.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of picks from the side of Shikigami, you know, is going to make it harder for Hypnos Iceless to make too much ground, but they're going to get at least a little bit just off of the kill from Dear Girl onto Natfish there. They also have the Gravitic Flux, so once they get through this archway, that's going to be, I want to say it's going to be a win condition for them, but they have to bait out Holly's Transcendence before it truly will be.
Maybe you can just trade the unassisted blade for the Transcendence in some cases. I'll have to see. Clear. No longer playing that Zenyatta, yep. So the long-range damage onto the other Widow is going to be a very limited. Fifi, clean mechanics here, by the way. Holly's already grabbed 2.
Yeah, and those are really important picks, especially the one there onto What, because you can see with how far forward the card is inching, it takes away the sightlines from Wow Bob, because you can't really play up on that high ground as effectively when Hypnos Iceless are essentially directly below you. That sightline means nothing, but because of those picks from Holly, you're able to actually get Wow Bob set back up, and now What has to just try and peep through keyholes to get a shot right now. She no longer has the advantage. That grapple shot going to go completely unanswered from the other side, but we got infra sights on either side. Everyone's secrets are revealed.
Oh,
There's the
there are
shot.
no secrets between these two. Clear pops up a touch too high. Catch the body shot for their trouble. Might well try and get an almost direct attempt at a challenge here. They didn't see it coming somehow, even with the infrasight. In comes the Gravitic Flux taken to the air. That's going to be a double up here of a defensive countermeasures from Wi-Fi and Holly. Those aren't going to be available now. This could be Raver's big moment. A Kitsune rush behind the blade. No infrasight, no immortality, no transcendence, no survivors. A mid-air attempt at a shot there from Wildbob does not connect, but the remainder of Hypnos' offense has been just scurried away.
Yeah, Reva does exactly what she needs to do with that blade, but unfortunately, the Gravitic Flux came out on the other side, and Hypnos Isolus was too low at HP, too far up in the sky to actually be able to contribute to that and clean up some of those extra kills. So even though you get 2 with the blade, it's not enough. You still have Wi-Fi holding onto this Amp Matrix. What can't actually win out the Widow duel without that positioning, so she has to swap over onto the Sojourn. That is phenomenal for Wildbob, or would be if she wasn't going to swap over to Sojourn as well. All right, so you know, back to a stalemate between our hit scans.
Always encouraging when they miss in hero select, isn't it? Out comes the amplification matrix here from Wi-Fi. A lot of damage to be laid on down, but you've got to be very worried about what angle that hazard is going to indeed approach from. Clear on the off angle noted, what's already down. And well, we did say impregnable.
Yeah, and a big part of that has been the positioning of the hit scans, but also Holly finding some of these headshots from way far deep in the backline. Currently, wishes that's where she was now. Bochi gonna clean that one up, pay for it with her life, but that is a way forward.
Wait, Wi-Fi might be a little bit too far out here. That hazard's going to do bits in this small room. Uses the block for a momentary little bit of reprieve and could actually have been knocked off the side there by the rock if they were less fortunate, but instead she will grip to the earth, only to be taken down by the Genji. 5 seconds remain here. There's going to be a mad dash for a touch. Bochi's going to be the one to try and do it. They're caught in mid-air. That's going to have to be Raver to get it done. Playing their life as best they can. Clear approaches on the Ana, but the approach is just going to be noted down. A leap off the point there from Wi-Fi. Knows that their team has this in hand, so I'm just going to let gravity take me, and I'll drop where I will.
I think that was jumping into the air to give Fifi an immortality field and knowing that she was going to pay for it with her life. That's, all right, a unique usage of Baptiste's kit from Wi-Fi, but hey, like you said, the team still had it in the bag. That impregnable fortress really was the opportune place for Shikigami's to dig their heels in, and a lot of it, again, comes down to Holly finding some of these headshots with the Zen Orbs. We don't see enough of our little monk friend these days, and it's nice to see a fair bit of Zen in the kill feed.
Yeah, really showing off how mechanically skilled some of these support players are. That's what Zen does in many cases. And it felt like towards the cleanup of a lot of those defensive fights, we were often seeing Holly get 2 or 3 final blows per battle when it came to those team fights. Just managing to find fleeing players as well because of that lack of damage drop-off is imperative to make sure that the time bank of Hypnos was truly taxed from the 5.5 minutes they had for that.
Yeah, but like, it's still a blazing pace that they set through point A and point B, where a lot of time is typically lost to some stagger fights. You can really get like 3 defensive fights here on the attack or on the first point here if you play your cards right. So, you know, there's still a lot of opportunities for Hypnos Isolus to completely stall this out and stop it from ever getting to that golden box of victory towards the end of that fortress there. But the fact that Shikigami have set themselves up for a win condition where we don't have to go to extra innings is absolutely massive. And you're going to be looking at these Widowmakers from here on out, like for Wowbob here, who, once you had the aid of the fortress, was able to get the better of what? If you can do that on the attack, then this should just be Shikigami rolling through.
Of course, blocking counter headshots with a bit of rubble. I don't think it's actually corporeal to
impregnable.
New fortress just dropped, everybody. Natfish under pressure for just a moment here, but it should be relieved by Holly on the off angle, just putting a lot of damage onto the opposing Sigma. Thinking about cleansing those orbs here is going to be everything. Holly's already super low. 119 HP. Nice play around the bookcase there in order to intercept that accretion. And Genji has found Genji. Fifi forced to disengage from Raver. That's going to be the ammo field used as well.
It's going to be so much harder for Holly to pop off here as she does end up falling to a headshot from what? Clear is now going to have the Zen advantage there. Ooh, okay. There we go. That pickoff right there, even though you lose Wi-Fi, is going to command so much space because you no longer have to respect what sight lines. You can just kind of walk up with that advantage.
Yeah, getting rid of that Sigma Shield is next up on the docket to expose everybody, forced to hide behind this cart. It's a dangerous crossing here for Bochi, but they are going to make it, not before losing their immortality field, though, and that means losing their life thereafter. Diego noted, and the return of what once again demands respect from Shikigami.
Yeah, but like there's no space for this Widow. Like she has to poke her head out, and every single angle is going to be watched by either Wow Bob or Fifi. I mean, Fifi's really low on HP, probably just watching the life support tick down.
What's locations have been noted. For now, though, someone's got to get their feet on the cart. It has to be stopped here. Diego's been taken down, and that means that touching's not on the menu. Bochi finds out the hard way that Wow Bob was on that angle the entire time. Raver, yes, is going to reset on cart, but in the end, they're just playing for ult charge.
Clear has now killed 3. What has taken down another? Wi-Fi is going to finally dispatch what, but Clear might get staggered out here, charging up a volley, and Wi-Fi gonna win that one. All right, there we go. There's the last kill. That's totally fine. You know, 4 minutes for Shikigami to get through point B and most of point C. That's a fair bit of time. I think you're happy with the way that turned out, and it's Wow Bob getting these picks that's end up dictating the pace. Once again, no more secrets. Which Widow is going to strike blood first? They both know exactly where the other is. One's got a shield in front of him.
No more secrets, but lots of details. Plenty of ultimates available here. Natfish looking for a big gravitic flux. Only grabs for Sigma. This is probably just going to be answered by the Immo field rather than the Transcendence of follow-ups. There, though! Holly once again managing to find the exact orb at the exact time that it was needed. She's been popping off on the Zenyatta. And this will actually win this team fight off the back of a singular pick and a singular ultimate.
Yeah, I mean, being able to take down the enemy Sigma is absolutely massive. Like, no more shields for either What or Clear to play around. Holly can play this angle where she now has access over one of the key entry points for this point here. And Shikigami, like, they can just keep the pressure up and keep this cart rolling, potentially to the point where they only have one more fight to win there. There's an Ant Matrix from Bochi. That should force some positioning back from Shikigami, but, like, all they really have to do is kite this.
Ant Matrix buys space and What buys time by taking down Holly, moving in to what is that Ant Matrix right there. The answer coming through from Wi-Fi. A lot of damage, yes, but in the end, Shikigami still haven't been taken away from this angle. Wow Bob has returned. So it's a cheeky reposition on the angle. Oh, they're just fleeing from the Genji. The pat, pat, pat of the incoming sound. Oh, the Transcendence wasn't fast enough. Oh, she was too far away. Clear was too far spread away, and yes, Fifi's still alive in the back, able to just do a little bit of brawl damage to this tank. What? Oh, the suppression right here on Wi-Fi is crazy. Why did she jump? We're going to be asking. In the end, Fifi manages to get the knife exactly where it hurts the most. This should be able to be a completion, or at least a defensive rebuff here. Out into the sky goes Raver. Unable to heal through that is Bochi, and Shikigami now have 4 minutes to try and get through.
Yeah, but like the stagger and the chaotic nature of that fight makes it a lot more chaotic than it really needs to be, where Shikigami need to invest just about everything. So they have 3 minutes and 40 to try and get the cart the rest of the way, but they don't have any ults to speak of, so it's going to take another minute or so before they're able to build up to anything substantial. And we're once again back to kind of just playing for picks. Which Widow, which Zen, which BAP is able to find the best angle to get something big before we can actually build up to anything mounting a good offense here. And there's the constant looming threat of Rava's Dragon Blade, which you got to imagine without that Transcendence up, she wants to use as soon as possible.
Oh, Clear. The prediction on the peak goes wild. Wow Bob finds the business end of the right click, and Fifi just going to be forced to flee away, but so far away from their team. The Immo field not really going to be regarded here by Diego. Doesn't care. Clear also not going into a Bochi to the deflect. Fifi with 3. Almost 4 as well. Oh, this has collapsed rather quickly. Hypnos need to get it together, and they need to get it together quick.
And they no longer have the advantage of the Dragon Blade because Fifi is coming up on hers, and with all the positioning and all of the, you know, how close the cart is getting that golden box of victory, you kind of have to pop it like right now just to even get a touch here. That cart is getting very close. There's the dash ins. Your Genji being the one to touch is pretty suboptimal in this situation, though.
What has got to hit shots? What has got to relieve the pressure here for the remainder of Hypnos? The defensive bulwark should be strong. We know that this is a very strong area. Out goes the blade. Wi-Fi's already down. It's traded, though. And the trance is too late from Holly to save many of the team. Wow Bob's down, too. Wi-Fi can't find themselves too much here. Fifi drew the blade, but found very few killing blows. In the end, Hypnos, they can do the exact same leveraging that Shikigami did in this fortress.
Yeah, but you're looking at Shikigami's ult bank. Like, it kind of sucks that they had to use both the trans and the blade, and they don't get a whole lot for that, but they have the Gravitic Flux, and they also have the Infrasight advantage over what right now, so they can actually pick their spot, use this Gravitic Flux to great effect, and the only thing they have to worry about is an Amp Matrix that they can mirror.
Everything's on Bochi here. Answering that Gravitic Flux with the Immortality Field is imperative. If it can be forced out early... Oh, someone's going to touch the cart as well. You got to move on forward. Taking Deergol off the cart. Is someone going to come in and touch it? Yes, it's going to be Bochi on the other side. Their survival, yes, but not for long. Shikigami, roll on through. And to paraphrase Bron of the Blackwater, a couple of 5 gamers and some grappling hooks were found to make sure that this impregnable fortress was eventually broken. Shikigami find exactly what they need off the back of good ult economy.
I think it's fair to say that throughout that map, both backlines popped off, but the difference maker was definitely Fifi here on the Genji, because you had moments where what was getting the better of Wow Bob, and towards the latter half of that map, it kind of flipped on its head, where it's like, okay, suddenly what is the one kind of falling behind? And I think a big part of that is because she also had to be watching her back because Fifi was in the backline wreaking havoc, which is a pattern we are now seeing emerge from both Blizzard World and Havana, and I can only imagine is a pattern that will continue well into our 4th map.
Yeah, Fifi managing to get that 3k in the penultimate fight, or penultimate fight as well, was really huge to be able to build up that economic deficit that really was leveraged to allow Shikigami to get through the end there of Havana, because otherwise that point is so difficult to break through.
Look at that play from Clear there, right there, though. Like, without the Transcendent, he's able to just bait the damage to still get the kill there on Zanatfish. Like, she has definitely been a bright spot, as has Holly. Like, both of these Zenyatta's popped off throughout, but, I mean, it kind of feels like it was a little bit of a Genji gap.
I don't want to be the one to say it, but hey, I will celebrate Fifi. Fifi has been popping off, and I'm always happy to see Genji players really come into their element. Such an exciting character to watch. Wi-Fi as well, despite being listed as a substitute across all of these maps, has been able to really prove their value to Shikigami.
Yeah, and like, you know, she is a player that I have highlighted in the past that has like very much so impressed me on the Lucio, but also showing a very competent Baptiste. I kind of want to see them go farther with Wi-Fi. Like, I want to see Wi-Fi on some bigger teams going deeper into these tournaments, and I think is a bit of a secret weapon that could take Shikigami pretty far. But again, like Fifi, the damage that she's able to do in the neutral, just like with Genji's kit, like he's an assassin character. Like, you got to be able to find these assassinations, but a lot of Genjis end up just kind of farming up for the blade and then playing for that ultimate. Fifi is not one of them. She is able to find kills without the blade, with the blade, who cares? You know, just going in with the dashes and the right clicks when you least expect it, playing an opportunist Genji, and it's working out in Shikigami's favor. And if that pattern keeps up, I got to imagine they are going to be finding themselves in the next round, and it will be Hypno's Iceless populating the lower bracket. We will have to see. We're going to cut to a quick break, give our players a chance to reassess, decompress, breathe, and prepare, and us as well, because this has been cinema, and I need a drink. I need some water. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I definitely need some water. We'll see you on the other side of this break.
Well, we know we got a pretty beefy amount of drops for you guys, and you're going to be watching for quite a fair bit of time. These two teams, they want to take us as far as we possibly can. Get you as close to that Monarch venture as we can get, as we are 2-1 right now. And it is Hypnos Iceless map pick. They are the ones behind the 8-ball facing a knockdown to the lower bracket up against Shikigami. And I think the story so far has been a lot of the mechanical play that has come out from both the DPS and the backline from both sides.
Yeah, very impressive Zenyatta and Genji plays thus far. Esperanza is going to be the pick of Hypnos Iceless here. 2 maps in a row going the way of Shikigami. So remember that Hypnos actually opted in to Havana here. They thought that maybe they'd have the advantage off the back of that Zenyatta play, but really Fifi was the story of the time when it came to Shikigami's Genji play.
Yeah, and like, I think in the grand scheme of things, like more often than not, Genji kind of just trumps Zenyatta. Like, unless you literally have like Jonak in his prime, but also like the version of Jonak where he's got like 350 HP, like,
And
you remember
Libero
those
in the
nightmares for
back pocket.
flankers. Yeah, Libero, and then like our Arc on the Mercy, just like giving him the damage boost. Like, if you have that version of Jonak and all the things that went into making him the raid boss that he was, yeah, maybe then Zen beats Genji. But more often than not, you know, the right clicks and the dashes from the Genji are gonna get the better of even like top tier Zenyatta plays. And right now, Fifi is feeling herself. She is going into the backline, deeply entrenched, and is doing so much damage before anyone even knows she's there that they can't possibly deal with her. And I think that, like, you know, if you're Hypnos Iceless in terms of map picks, you're kind of out of options. Like, Esperanza, that definitely feels like is still kind of the sort of thing that can facilitate that, even as you're going to transition back over to, like, a Lucio Kiriko backline, most likely. It's still something where, like, Fifi's Genji can be a threat. But, like, your options are either this, the other push maps, or Clash, and I don't think you really want any of that. And that's it. Like, that's really it. Like, that's all you had on the table. Everything else has been picked.
Now, I want to zoom in on what you said there about Fifi kind of feeling herself when it comes to this Genji, which is kind of everything when you're playing an assassin character, because when you're playing that assassination style, not looking for the blade and instead being an opportunist Genji, as you labeled it earlier, confidence is everything because choking is anathema. When you make your engage with Genji, if you don't have the confidence to think, I'm going to hit every single one of these right clicks, I'm going to get value out of this dive, then you feed your brains out. Because you're not going to get your dash reset to get out of there.
There is such a thing as, like, too much confidence, and those are usually the Genjis in my ranked games that have that, but you're right. Like, a Genji that's feeling themselves can, like, you know, is going to be able to seize those opportunities because they're going to have that, like, I'm unstoppable, I got this. This is the moment where I know I can get a kill, and that's when they hit the Swift Strike, and then they go in and they clean it up. They get the dash reset, they get a couple more right clicks, they get another dash. Suddenly they're outpacing the enemy Genji to the blade that other Genjis are just playing the entire character to try and build up to, and you're beating them to the punch both in the neutral and in the ultimate.
What's the gap between confidence and delusion? Wait, me when I order the
ride that line
lobster
every day.
next to the well-cooked lobster, that lobster burnt, bro, or it's uncooked. Those claws look like chicken nuggets.
What do you do if you go to, like, a Red Lobster and they serve you one that's just, like, not cooked and one that's, like, is cooked? Because you're like, clearly you understood the assignment enough to finish one of these. Like, what do you do?
The other one's just for show. maybe you order a lobster to go.
We didn't cook it for you, though. Like,
Yeah. You gotta cook it yourself at home. Shikigami ready to try and get themselves to the winner's bracket here. It would be an unenviable position to go up against Valentine in round 2, but we can't win them all as we burrow our way into the static.
yeah, I don't think anybody wants to, like, burn their lifeline this early on, you know, just to avoid, like, to tactically dodge the number 2 seed in Valentine. Like, I
Yeah,
think you
not
still want
worth.
to try and keep yourself in the upper bracket as long as possible. Like,
Oh, Natfish already found Bochi. Huge pick coming through here from Natfish, who's back on the hazard, and this might change the dynamic between these teams. Natfish with yet another. Holly finds Deergirl, who seems to have gone a little bit too far deep looking for that Kiriko. And 5-1 here when it comes to the frags is very strong start for Shikigami.
yeah, and so, like, when we've seen Hypnos Iceless play this style, we've seen Reva and Bochi going out on these splits, but that often is going to put Bochi in a dangerous position where if the hazard goes in and tries to jump on her, she doesn't really have a whole lot of opportunity to get back out because she's probably already used the speed boost and the boop to try and help get the Genji into position anyway, so it's up to Reva to try and, like, heal.
Fifi caught out by Bochi on that disengagement here, and while Natfish is trying to move between targets and try and secure something, that lack of Kiriko healing here for Hypnos is really going to be painful. Trying to slice through Diego with a momentary attempt at peeling. Wow Bob's going to fall on the other side of that as Diego finds the teleporting Kiriko. Holly was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I don't think Natfish can really do this alone despite the progress on carpets gained here by Wi-Fi.
Deer Girl looks so good right now on the Hazard. Like, she's got the mechanics down pat, able to hit the vaults at the right moment, get those big slashes coming through from the Violent Leap, and the wall to confirm the kill onto Wow Bob, and another that nearly confirms the kill onto Wi-Fi, and you're still able to get that kill eventually. That's gonna be, you know, not Hypnos being able to match the progress that Shikigami made, because they should be able to regroup relatively quickly, but they can at least stop the momentum and start to build up to some momentum of their own here.
High ground control here. We're already backing away from that purchase of space given over by Natfish. In comes a Violent Rain. Nice timing on the Suzu. Stops What from getting hit, but Bochi not quite so lucky. Taken out after being rooted by Wow Bob. A well-placed rail here could be everything, but it's Wow Bob who's actually on the receiving end. A lot of danger incoming. They can't dodge away. Holly was too early on the Suzu. Was so worried about the incoming damage. She didn't think 2 steps ahead, but Diego was playing 5D chess. Fifi now up against the Kiriko. Not an easy duel. It's even harder when Raver joins. Wait, they stole the cart though.
So probably the reason why that was so free for Deer Girl was because Natfish was just sneaking off with the cart. Gonna take Bochi's life as well, and yeah, Sarina, I don't think you're gonna be able to stick around long enough to get rid of this Hazard, so Shikigami, despite losing the fight, nearly get the checkpoint.
Just stopped at the last moment. Well placed there by Diego, attempting to chase off Shikigami. It was not free though. Sarina had to invest to make this happen. And now a counter Kitsune rush has to be answered in turn by Sound Barrier. Both Sound Barriers coming out. A blade drawn here by Raver. Once onto the Sojourn. Nice self-build from Wow Bob. Hits the rail when it matters the most. And now Shikigami should be back in control. It's still anybody's fight though. Mechanical outplays could be everything with What down. One less option for that. Wow Bob stands up to what Diego brings to the table. Goes alley-oop and shoots down those who try to oppose her.
Everything's going right for Shikigami right now. They're gonna get the checkpoint, pass the butt scratch, and start to make even more progress. Wi-Fi Sound Barrier is enough to save Wow Bob from Raven's Blade. You're able to just get so much advantage. Like when you said a couple fights ago, you know, where Deer Girl is tearing apart the backline, she's playing 5D chess. Natfish was playing checkers and won.
I've been eating the chess pieces. The knights taste best. What? Mayweather decides to draw out something here, but Fifi first to strike. Bochi round the corner. Nice peeks there from Fifi. Just playing for her life now after getting that early advantage. Shikigami desperately want to go further into a winner's bracket, claim their first scalp, and they seem close to be able to do so.
There's so much bot progress being made here. Hypnos, I mean, they're going to list Irina really late there, and this is where it's going to start to seep in. You know, you're so close to losing the entire series. Everyone on Hypnos is thinking to themselves, I have to make a play. I have to make something happen right now. You can see Reva going in too deep. Deer Girl making some of these uncharacteristic misplays because she needs to make something happen, and it is now or never.
The pressure to carry is mounting up right now. Natfish has that rain ready to go, but Downpour, I think I heard a Suzu somewhere else. Natfish might say that's time to go, and indeed, a delivery of spikes and hell are joined upon the defense of Isolus. Diego won't be able to stand up to all of these for long, and despite going sky high and Natfish being rooted to a rock, it is an absolute barn burner of an offense from Shikigami, who bring themselves to victory in record time.
That has got to be a heartbreaking way to lose the series, because you go to that fight and you just feel like everything is going your way. You got Deer Girl just frying the entire backline with perfect mechanics, perfect cooldown timing, baiting out the Suzu, then popping the Downpour, getting the assassinations. But while all that's happening, Natfish stole the cart, didn't have to invest to do it, got the checkpoint, and then Shikigami just ride that wave all the way into the enemy spawn, and they're able to get the dub off of that momentum and the panic that creates in every single member of Hypnos Isolus, because it was just feed after feed after feed after that, because everyone's desperately just trying to dig their heels in, make the bot stop, try and like stop this from slipping out of their hands, but they just can't be stopped at that point in time. Everyone's making mistakes trying to make something happen, and the only thing that happens is the inevitable. Shikigami getting the full cap. They do now have a date with Valentine, and unfortunately for Hypnos Isolus, they will be the ones whose lifeline is now burned, and they only have one more crack at things. They will be going down to our lower bracket.
No more mulligans, no more second chances, and you're right, like, stability was just a commodity that was not on offer for Hypnos, despite how heavily they tried to invest to buy it out. Natfish in particular, I think, was a real standout when it came to not only their mechanics on the hazard, but also that high-level play of realizing, hey, I don't think we're going to win those particular duels, so I'm going to invest my presence on getting a little bit of a steal on the cart and forcing some less than ideal engagements onto me as the support trickled in to be the ones who touched, but you can't take that 1v1 against Hazard.
I'm going to invest my presence in not being present. I'm just going to take the bot and go elsewhere. You guys have fun over here. This is mine. I'll just be taking it with me. Oh, we got the checkpoint off of that. And like, to me, that kind of reads as like Shikigami just beating Hypnos in the mental game. Because it's like, again, what do you do in that situation? It's desperation. It's trying to scratch and claw your way back into relevancy in any kind of fight. And it just backfires. That said, though, I still liked a lot of the things that I saw from Hypnos Iceless. I think this backline can potentially be a threat, and I saw some incredible hazard mechanics out of Deer Girl, and what is also a threat on that Sojourn as well, so this isn't going to be a free win in the lower bracket for whoever they end up going up against. But Shikigami, on the other hand, you know, they have a lot going for them as well. Fifi's Genji is going to be a threat throughout the entire upper bracket, and potentially, you know, the lower bracket if they find themselves needing that lifeline, one that they thankfully still have. Their backline as well also had their pop-off moments. You got to give a lot of shout-outs to Wi-Fi here.
Yeah, one of the things that's interesting about Shikigami as well, like especially with Wi-Fi in mind, is that they're using their substitute roster very effectively so far, substituting both supports and tank players thus far to really make sure that they can really match any pick that is brought up against them, and it makes it far harder to kind of beat Shikigami in the map pick.
Yeah, I mean, like, you kind of run into a situation this late in the series, too, where, like, you can't really beat them in the map pick because the only options you have are push and clash, which, you know, in this meta, both are going to facilitate the same level of play. Like, in this Hazard meta, you're not going to differentiate clash and push. Like, you're going to play Hazard on both of those, and you just kind of have to be better on that composition. And, yeah, that's kind of all you can do. And we see, unfortunately, we don't get to go to a map 5. Shikigami will seat Hypnos Iceless in map 4. But speaking of being seated, we have a sponsor who's going to... I see you giggling. You like that one.
I love a good segue. I love a good segue, and I love a good gaming chair, CB. And that's why Blacklight crafts the ultimate gaming experience, one ergonomic chair at a time, and we're generously going to be giving away the Blacklight Kraken Pro gaming chair to some of our lucky community members.
Yeah, you know, we talked about them giving the additional prizing to the winning team, but you two could enter to win. Just be sure to join our Discord. You know, exclamation Discord in the chat. We should be able to get yourself a link to the Calling All Heroes Discord there. You can also make sure that you follow Radiant GG on X.com and other social platforms. Repost to their post there, reply, get yourself an entry there. Enter to win, and you too could be seated.
Yeah, make sure that you shop the entire series of Blacklight chairs over at blacklight.com. And, well, if you're watching this back on VOD later tonight and you're a Calling All Heroes player, then if you win, your team will be receiving some Blacklight Kraken Pro gaming chairs as well. And I believe the MVP will also be receiving a prize from Blacklight as well. So very generous when it comes to supporting Calling All Heroes program.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. And I'm over here sitting in my non-Blacklight chair, unfortunately, really wishing that I had that level of comfort, because I still have to be seated here for yet another series that we will have shortly here. Let me see, make sure we don't have any sort of interview. We'll find out on the other side of this break. We'll either have an interview. Okay, we will not. No interview. Just have to be sure. All right, just got to be completely sure here. But we do have our next series ready for you on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere, chat. We will be right back. Welcome back, everybody. My name is CB. I'm joined, of course, by Leg Day. And looking back to the end of Esperanza, where we saw those two lobsters, I think that was actually foreshadowing for the series, because one of those lobsters was well and truly cooked, and the other, not a care in the world. Shikigami able to just completely dunk on Hypno's Iceless there, and now, like I said, they now have a date with Shikigami. Hypnos have been knocked down to the lower bracket.
Interestingly, that was actually our closest round of 14 match. Everything else was 3-0 from the looks of it. Abigail Posse waiting further into this bracket here, or rather, Moth Genesis and Amanatsu are going to be going up against each other, and Timeless Aurora versus T2 Esports Olympians, who fell, I believe, to Yes.
Yeah, so this is going to be a really interesting matchup here. That's where we're actually going to be living our next matchup. There we go. It's Timeless Aurora versus T2 Esports Olympians. Timeless Aurora is one of our LCQ teams, and ones that those of you who watched during Major 3 will probably recognize as a lot of the members from Lava Lilies Rising. They're all grown up now, and they've joined us up here in Challengers and made it through LCQ to qualify for this tournament. Although not surprised to see them in the lower bracket, because their first matchup was against Queen's Gambit. So, you know, kind of thrown to the wolves right away. Yeah, it wasn't really the best for them, but hey, what can you do? You know?
Yeah, Lava Lily's graduates, you could say, if Timeless hadn't picked up this roster. T2 Esports Olympians, a couple of my home dogs here. Actually, very European focused. Let's go first over, though, to Timeless Aurora. People who you may well recognize. I believe Taiko is on this roster. Laser's here, too.
Yeah, Laser was also showing some pretty impressive hazard mechanics. Unfortunately, we've seen that is not often enough to take you the entirety of the way. You do also need to have a lot of microplay coming up from the rest of your team, and that's where you're going to be looking at Soup and Naku to try and make up the deficit there, as well as this backline in Fabian Instinct. You know, you've gone from being, you know, Calling All Heroes Rising champions to now participating in this champion series. You do want to try and, you know, make up the deficit, try and live up to the new standards that you have to hold yourself to. One that you put in the work, you know, grinded the rank to get up to qualify for this in the first place. You just have to have it pay off here and now.
Of course, if we do see Taiko today, she will be playing even better, because she'll be sitting in her blacklight chair. She got us the prize for being the MVP of the Rising Grand Finals that we cast back in Major 3. Timeless Aurora, certainly. Head coach Riker is interesting as well. A lot of tank expertise there from Collegia, which may well come to be a huge boon for Timeless Aurora. On the other side, T2 Esports Olympians. Luau, Fiersic, I believe is how you say the the tank's name. Not G4sic or Gasic, I believe it's German, so it's Fiersic.
Ah, yes, that would track. So this is one of our, by the way, we have a lot of European flavor throughout the entirety of Calling All Heroes, but this is one of those interesting teams where it is like full European. They are really bringing, you know, a full smorgasbord of that EU flavor to the dance, and we haven't seen them too deep in tournament brackets before. Again, you know, you mentioned they fell to Yes, who I predicted would be pretty strong in this meta, so I'm not surprised. But I do hope to be surprised by this team and actually see what brings them to the dance, what makes them actually special, and is there actually, you know, something of a budding, marginalized gender scene over in EU that we need to pay closer attention to?
One of the things you should keep in mind for this team as well is that for a lot of them, it's really late.
Yeah.
Here in the UK, it is currently 3:45 in the morning, and for those who are on mainland Europe, it will be an hour later, 4:45 in the morning. So we'll see if that affects their play at all as we head into our first losers bracket. One of these teams needs to be sent home right away, and right now, and Lijiang Tower is going to be their first audition for survival.
I assume if you're T2, you want to try and like win this quickly so you can pop off to morning tea. I think that's a thing, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I only have passing knowledge of Europe from like Great British Baking Show and my one time going to DreamHack Stockholm, but I was a tourist, so I didn't participate in their morning tea rituals. I didn't wake up until it was time for the event.
It's smelly fish and baking all the way down.
All right. That tracks.
It's a foundational property of Europeans. Timeless Aurora and T2 Esports Olympians fight for survival. There are no more mulligans, no more second chances for one of these teams. It ends here.
And, you know, I don't know how, like, we already said this is a European team. If they come out here with a Reinhardt, they are going to be true to their European roots. I can tell you that much. But, Timeless Aurora are one of the teams. Okay, so I've heard some teams trying to make this Juno work, and it hasn't been to the greatest effect. Like, I've heard tale of it, but I still kind of feel like it's pure fiction. Not really getting the most value. Instinct gonna swap over to the Kiriko really quick. I think, okay, so we're just getting the speed ring and then swapping back over onto the Kiriko. All right, that was bait, because I have seen her on the Juno and LCQ, and it didn't work out.
Speed ring roll actually gets Kasumi a little bit, that's Fabi off the map for a moment. We'll be able to skate back on up using her well-placed skates. Naku already into the backline. There's some meaty right clicks. Naku's done the damage, but no final blows are found off the back of this. Instead trying to punish Luau. He's gone a little bit too far out right here as Kasumi finds Instinct elsewhere. That's a big pickup for Lucio to find a final blow from Fiersic here. And Timeless, they're rebuffed from the point for a moment.
Yeah, your Kiriko is definitely not the first person that you could be losing in these fights because that's a lot of your sustainability, which, yeah, okay, yeah, Hazard has a lot of survivability, but you do inevitably need to heal up at some point, and it's got to be your Kiriko in position to be able to do that, while also trying to add in some additional pressure with those kunais. So Instinct falling is a huge loss for Timeless Aurora. They're going to be able to get back in here and get a good angle as T-Sport Olympia is going to try and hold the bridge.
And the bridge here could be where T2 Esports Olympians decide to really tax this approach. There's like a lot more going. Oh, the perfect boot from Kasumi. I believe she's up for like 5 final blows already. Once again, another Wi-Fi style Lucio who's really getting aggressive, finding those final blows when it's most appropriate. Kasumi wants to join Fiestic in the front line. Don't want to go too far. Once again, force Timeless Aurora to contemplate going across that bridge or putting themselves in a tight space.
You can kind of see the silhouette, by the way. Look at where Luau is currently posted up. And, like, if you're Fabi, you got to be thinking twice about trying to take that angle again. You do have the ability, the mobility in this competition to just circumvent that bridge entirely, but you're going to have to worry about the Tracer in your backline. Instinct seems pretty unfazed by it. Takes a fair bit of damage.
Doesn't care. Didn't ask once for Lucio, but Kasumi simply floats away. Luau manages to find Fabi. Instinct, she's been slain. They, them, were, unfortunately, from Soup. And Naku's not going to be able to make their way through Fiersic here, who just uses the spike guard to slowly evaporate the attackers.
I'm glad I was not taking a sip of my water when you said were. That's that would have been a very messy moment here. Timeless Aurora do have the downpour and the sound barrier, as well as the blade coming up here. The blade being something that T2 don't have access to might be enough for Timeless Aurora to make up this deficit, but they have to worry about Kasumi's sound barrier.
Laser goes deep. That's going to be a downpour. The blade as well. Everything upon they, them. And finally, it's going to be Laser who manages to find that one with the spike guard. Fiersic fleeing elsewhere. Wants the mega. Fabi just speed boosts themselves onto a pulse. So I can't wait. I just can't wait to get a start on her new exciting life as a corpse.
So all of those resources dumped onto they, them. That's what I call non-binary erasure. I like the... I like the... So Laser makes a really good play there to use the jagged wall as cover to make sure that you can get full value out of the downpour. But unfortunately, once again, Instinct is not able to make that cover and ends up being the first to fall. Without that, Kiriko, you just can't really sustain the push. Like, everyone's health bars become finite and you can't keep that up. So, I mean, Instinct's like, whether she's been on the Juno or the Kiriko, I've noticed that she dies first in a lot of these fights, which is something that I think T2 are trying their hardest to play into. And if that keeps up, I mean, it's going to be really hard for Timeless Aurora to buy their way back into this.
Yeah, Luau just constantly leveraging the mobility of the Tracer, which admittedly probably isn't getting scrimmed as much against these days. So maybe your Kiriko isn't as used to playing their TP or their positioning around how the Tracer can be exploited with the lack of verticality available to them. Fiersic for now, just caught in one of these little corners. Doesn't want to go too far too early. The knockback properties of that wall, unable to find too much in the way of frag purchase, but all by some time. It is going to come down to a brawl on the point. Fiersic goes deep into a back line. Forces Fabi and Instinct elsewhere, joining up with Luau, forced to use the recall of their own right to make sure that the gravity doesn't grab them before the bullets do. Kasumi once again getting those opening frags. Fabi's tried to help Laser, but to no avail, and Soup's off the side. Soup, where are you?
So, like, Naku goes in really deep in that fight, but can't sustain it because the healers are both busy trying to deal with all of these backline threats. And I think Naku kind of, like, needed to pull back there somewhere in the middle of that fight and try to get back with the rest of the team, because there was no way they were ever going to be able to get to that Genji to be able to heal him back up and help out sustaining that frontline pressure. Like, there was just too much in the backline that eventually Timeless Aurora crumbled.
Soup building up a little bit of additional charge here. Building it off Fiersick, very intelligent, but you don't want to put that rail into the Hazard. Instead, you much rather put it into one of these squishy backliners. Already too much damage taken by Laser. Kasumi once again gets the final blow. It seems like she's always involved when it comes to these frags. A bloodthirsty support that Doa would be proud of. And now it's all down to the chase. Soup eaten up, or drank, should I say.
Instinct, uncharacteristically this time the last to die, but it's not going to matter too much because everyone else from Timeless Aurora has already fallen. That's another dead push, 50% and counting for T2 Esports Olympians. And again, like we talk about, some of these backlines ending up being the stars of the show. Right now it's Kasumi participating in way more kills than Lucio has any business being in.
Oh, Fabi caught out here by that Hazard. There's the downpour rooted in place, and all you can do is watch the approach to Fiersick. A new fear has been unlocked for that little frog, and Soup is going to be sharing in the meetings about that one.
75% and counting. We're in one fight territory for Timeless Aurora, and they invested a Kitsune Rush into that. Thankfully, it's mirrored as well as the downpour, but Fabi is the only one who has done enough work on the side of Timeless Aurora to build up to an ultimate. A sound barrier just to get through the door is a very suboptimal way of using that ultimate, especially when you don't have a plan B, or potentially when you don't have a Kiriko if Luau can get this pulse bomb in.
TP4 stick given. Soup is too far away to receive the sound barrier. It's going to be done without the Sojourn, but great patience here from T2 Esports Olympians. They wait for it to fade away. Kasumi can force this forward if they so desire. One fight win is all that it takes, and maybe you want to reinforce it here. Sound barrier ready to go. Kasumi only gets themselves though. They're too far away, and that means they then doesn't receive it. Where was Kasumi? Missing. They're on the milk bottle. The downpours are missed as well, unfortunately. So Laser's going to be wanting that one back. Now Naku can try and take out this Lucio who's giving them so much trouble, but it's 2 against 1. Luau just puts feet on the point, pressuring out. Here's the mini. Yes, it's a little bit of healing, but going up against the Horde by oneself is inadvisable. They them has returned on the Sombra. A hack not going to be forthcoming, but Laser, all they can do is hold this block for a second longer. All out of charge, all out of friends, all out of mulligans. T2 Esports Olympians stand on the precipice of winning Lijiang Tower.
And it doesn't look like there's anyone left to have anything to say about it. Soup goes in, tries to get the touch, and is going to fall. And I mean, this looks like T2 Olympians just have the better understanding of this composition. They are getting so much more value. A large part of it is Kasumi, and even though, like, she kind of fumbles that sound barrier towards the midnight hour there, and it nearly results in a one fight for Timeless Aurora, the rest of the team is able to buy themselves back in just with pure aggression, you know, being able to take down every last remaining member of Timeless Aurora that could have capitalized off of that misplay. And Kasumi, like, I mean, yeah, this is once again like a support player that we have to kind of consider as like the MVP of a lot of these fights, especially on Lijiang Tower, where we know Lucio's have a history of fragging out, but will that pattern continue?
Yeah, no passivity here from Kasumi. Very much here to frag and here to slay. One of the things that is notable here, though, is for T2 Esports Olympians, they haven't won in the mirror just yet. They're still using this Tracer, and Timeless Aurora, they are going to need to force T2 Esports Olympians off of this Tracer if they want to win this series. And to do that, they do actually have some power when it comes to their map picks. They can pick far more vertical maps, where Tracer has a lot more difficulty accessing something like a Kiriko, who has that wall climb ability, whereas this map was fairly flat, you know, like the Tracer can blink onto your Kiriko very easily. The Kiriko doesn't really have many options for high grounds from which to support their team while being safe from the Tracer. For Timeless Aurora, I'm really going to be looking at a map pick here to have somewhere where there's a lot of safe space for the Kiriko to hang out.
I think like a lot of these maps, by the way, like what we'll see from the DPS is it'll usually be the Sojourn that flexes over onto the Tracer, so you get the full dive with the Genji Tracer. But what's interesting is T2 Olympians are playing the Sojourn with the Tracer in lieu of the Genji. So you're missing out on the Dragon Blade, that big potential fight-winning ultimate, especially if you don't have a sound barrier on the other side waiting for it. But you make up for that by still having that frontline pressure and indeed backline pressure a lot of these times. Like you say, you need to keep your Kiriko safe. And one of the patterns that we saw, especially on that first sub-map on Gardens, was the fact that Instinct was very much so not safe. I can imagine she felt like she was in the wrong neighborhood a large amount of the time. they're gonna go ahead and pick Suravasa, and there are a lot of rough neighborhoods here for Akihiko, I gotta say.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm overly approving of this map. I mean, on first point in particular, it's going to be great for Kiriko. Tracer has no effective way of getting up onto sort of like the periphery of the control point right at the beginning. So there's a lot of safety to be had there for a Kiriko. But when the map starts to flatten out, we're really going to see Instinct once again taxed by Luau. So I wonder if Luau here maybe rolls out with the Genji instead.
Perhaps, but like I think even the Tracer, like you have a lot of angles where you can still lurk and be a constant threat, and like, you know, maybe you kind of feel like one of the things that I've seen that has been a highlight for Timeless Aurora has been Laser's mechanics on the Hazard. But if you can completely negate that by just not taking the fight in the front line and always bringing it to the back line, then eventually that Hazard will crumble. All you have to do is be able to survive the onslaught, and I mean, Kasumi can more than survive it in the back line, I think. You know, Kasumi has been dishing out a fair bit of damage herself. So that's probably not all that much of a worry, but the big problem for Timeless Aurora needs to be, in some way, shape, or form, keeping Instinct safe. Because, like, either she's getting caught out of position, or there's just no heal there, or the dives from Timeless Aurora just aren't fast enough to where she has to, like, try so hard to stay alive for so long, and it's just not working out. Like, I kind of feel like, you know, you still have the sight lines where you can keep them on the Sojourn. You still have those sight angles. You can try and win out that Sojourn duel, and you have a lot of places for a Tracer to lurk.
Yeah, the Tracer lurking is definitely going to be in the mind. Just fizzing away. Timeless Aurora continually taxing how they're going to try and approach these. I would not mind Luau swapping over here onto the Genji, especially for first point for second. The Tracer definitely gets a lot of value, no matter where it goes, and very few of them have the same safety that the first point has. I like this rollout angle as well here from Timeless Aurora. They're going to go over to the back high ground for a little bit more safety. Instinct, of course, is just going to use the speed ring and then probably go back over to the Kiriko. I wonder if they will be able to make a lot of safety for Instinct here. That's kind of the name of the game. Safety for Instinct, and trying to survive that first engagement from Fierce.
Well, you are correct, though. Luau is going to stick on the Genji here, so I think a lot more of that pressure is going to be onto Laser this time around, which maybe you would think that Instinct can stay alive a little bit longer. I mean, right now, she's positioned in a pretty safe place there. Also does have Laser able to fall back there, but Luau is looking for the angle.
Oh, Luau could be caught in a spike trap here, potentially. Still going to be healed up rapidly. That's already going to be the burning of a Suzu, though, here from Natnif. Could mean trouble for Gasik in the future, but for the moment, the point's already been flipped over. Kasumi caught out there by Naku, finally getting their name in the kill feed. It feels like we haven't seen too much from Naku thus far, but this could be where they make their mark. Fiercely gets back onto the point, and the spike trap does everything to Fabi. Evasion matters little towards also ending spikes.
Yeah, like, you get that kill onto Kasumi, and it's absolutely massive. You're going to take down Luau as well, so Timeless Aurora aren't completely out of this fight yet, but they might be shortly, because Instinct has now fallen, and yeah, you can't keep Laser alive. And so when you have Naku go in and get that early assassination onto Kasumi, Laser's health bar is far too low that the Hazard can't follow up on that dive with initial pressure. In fact, they can't even pressure the point. Like, Laser has to fall back to try and get a fair bit of healing from Instinct to, you know, thanks to that, is at least competitive in Kitsune Rush Charge with Natnif on the other side, but you're not able to actually convert that early kill into point presence, and when you finally do try, the jaws snap back at you, you end up losing Fabi, and then suddenly you don't have time. 10% left, and Laser's already dead.
Yeah, that off angle there from Instinct, remember there wasn't enough healing for Laser to survive one of these dives. 99% already. Luau, a little touch too far. Naku once again in the kill feed, but Natnif is taxing the approaches. Headshot after headshot delivered by the Kiriko in this case, finding many final blows. And T2 Esports Olympians look just as solid on Flashpoint as they did on Lijiang.
Yeah, and also just as solid on the Genji Sojourn variants of this composition as they do with the Tracer. I mean, they're able to win that essentially ultless. It's just that early pickoff that came out onto Laser, getting caught out without line of sight of Instinct, so no Suzu that comes through, no healing comes through. You get a couple of assassination kunais from Natnif, and it's just so clean from T2.
Instinct striking first. Kitsune Rush combined here with the overclock. An attempt to tear it all down. Yes, there are going to be players stuck to the floor, but they're reinforced here with the sound barrier. Now a counter-strike coming through. Many rooted here. Laser gets value. Plenty of it. It's an absolute meal deal of a downpour. And Timeless Aurora finally get their first cap.
It was value, but like you do also have to invest both of your support ultimates, and you only got the Kitsune Rush out of the other side, as well as the Overclock, I guess. So you're kind of happy with that, but like you're still holding on to the Sound Barrier and the Dragon Blade for T2. So there is a win condition for them, and only DPS will stuff it.
Forward chase after the Sojourn, answered readily here by Kasumi. There's the counterblade coming through from Naku. Oh, a short dash from Luau. If they hit their Widow heads, unfortunate, couldn't go too far forward. That just means they're playing safe for now. In the loving arms of the Kiriko themselves. To the other side, to Instinct, she's fallen down. Courtesy of Versik, and that means there's not enough healing for Laser. The House of Cards will topple, the dominoes hit each other. T2 back in control.
So I feel like this is kind of like a miscommunication from Timeless Aurora, or just like an overall misplay. Like, Naku has the blade and wants to go first to try and set the tempo, which is correct, but Soup doesn't have the overclock yet to be able to follow that up once that sound barrier is completely all gone. So, like, Naku can't get out alive because there's not enough pressure, and Instinct has to go too far forward to try and augment that blade, and they both end up paying for it, and the push just completely dies as soon as Naku does. Now you have the overclock, but will you be given a good angle to use it? Soup says yes.
Pressure on Soup here. Going back towards the edge. Versik under so much pressure. Laser just going to add to the cacophony of noise that was pushed into Gaze's ears. And now Soup should be able to claim all of this space. The overclock is over. T2 Esports Olympians for disengage just finished. Without the tank, yes. And Kasumi's gone too far. Searching for glory. She hungered for the backlines. But now, only members of Timeless Aurora remain. Luau was the last holdout when it came to contesting.
Now that is value, though. You're able to get that point back, 67%. I mean, it's one fight territory for T2, and they have a lot of ults to take this back, but Timeless Aurora, full support ultimates, they're coming up on a downpour, and Naku, I mean, 40% to a Dragon Blade is not a lot, but it's going to be enough to try and keep pace with Luau, especially if you're able to get some of this damage done. Never mind, Luau has killed Naku. Luau wins the exchange there in ult charge.
Luau wins these. Natnif already forced to use for Suzu, though. That may have some long-reaching consequences, but with Soup down, the danger is almost past. A well-placed headshot into a reflect onto Laser. Luau's had themselves a fight right here.
There's an opportunity for a touch here from Timeless Aurora. I mean, thankfully, again, you lose it ultless, but T2 are going to have a lot here. If there is a touch, which it looks like Timeless Aurora, like they're... No, they can't. They cannot go for a touch. It looked like for a second they were posturing to try and go for it, but they have to give this one up and just set it over to map point there. They might be able to get the early rotation there, as a couple members of T2 are kind of far behind. So Timeless Aurora should get a positional advantage here. It'd be really nice if they had an overclock to try and augment that, but it does make it all the more difficult for them to get good use out of their overclock.
This positional advantage might, of course, force a little bit more in terms of resources out of Esports Olympians try to make this work. Early sound barrier here from Fabi. All about the engagement. T2, they're clean on the disengage, burning away that sound barrier. Luau's even peeled for a touch. In comes the downpour. Luau noted, yes, protected, though. The sound barrier just in time. Laser under so much pressure. The healing needs to be delivered, but it's nowhere near. They then grabs that. And Luau now looks for any victims that present themselves. And, well, there are plenty on the side of Timeless Aurora. First cap for T2.
I like the thought process of trying to go aggressive and go first with a sound barrier, but they were forgetting one key detail, and that is that T2 still had all of their cooldowns and could just back off for free. And they're able to bait out the sound barrier and the downpour from Versik, but that's not really enough. Like, you're trading 2 ults for 2 ults, but you're also giving up the point. So in the end, it ends up not being worth it, especially when you consider the ult deficit that T2 are still operating with. Kitsune Rush from Instinct, I mean, T2 can just mirror this after they kite it. If they go second with a Kitsune here, they should just win the fight outright.
Great coverage on the point. Might be a flip around, though. Versik doing their best to try and intercept this one, and there it is, the counter. When it comes to this play, nice TP away. They desperately want for Lucio. Luau manages to cut down Naku in their prime. Still falling low, going up against both supports. It's very scary, but scarier is they, them. And that's going to be... This should just be Laser falling down now, doing their best to play for the percentage. And, well, with the healing coming through from the Kiriko, will last a second longer, but all it's going to do is prolong the inevitable as T2 flip back.
Yeah, that's a fair bit of percentage to gather off of a seemingly innocuous point flip, 26%. I mean, 75%. It's going to be one fight territory, and I mean, that fight still goes the way of T2, and it's the difference between Dragon Blading into an enemy Kitsune Rush versus Dragon Blading with one. Luau gets the kill. Naku is unable to. There's just too much pressure, too much damage that comes down that once the deflect is gone, your life is pretty much over. Oh, the map's over. Never mind.
Oh, no. Oh, not like this. Oh, that's got to be a tilter. Timeless Aurora. What happened? What happened, lads? Oh, that's, yeah, it's just a bit of a tilter. It is what it is. It's going to have to be a reverse sweep for Timeless Aurora to avoid being knocked out straight away from the Calling All Heroes Championship.
It would seem that T2 don't get paid by the hour and Timeless Aurora don't get paid enough to touch the point, so... I mean, I guess we're going to a map 3 here, but it might be the last map because this looks pretty one-sided so far. I mean, there was an opportunity, I think, for Timeless Aurora to try and actually win the fight outright because there weren't a whole lot of ults on either side. Like, really, all you needed was, like, one good pick and to touch the point, but we kind of forgot that one crucial step and never got to the part where we can start looking for that crucial pick that could have gotten us the point back.
Yeah, unfortunately could not really convert in that second phase of a fight. Natnif actually picking up where Kasumi left off in previous rounds. Kasumi a little bit less violent this time around. Probably had to do more to respond to, or rather keep Luau safe. There's a lot less self-preservation for the Genji in comparison to the Tracer. So that probably kept Kasumi on a bit of a tighter rein when it came to how much roaming that Lucio could do.
Yeah, like, there's a lot of times where you're seeing Kasumi getting, like, caught out trying to go for that kill, like that assassination onto Instinct. You know, they're doing a better job of protecting her, but the problem is, like, all right, we're looking over here where our backline is. We're not looking over there where this Kiriko is, and Natnif is hitting some pretty big kunai shots that are putting out a ton of damage and a ton of pressure from afar, and, like, that's up to your DPS to try to be the ones to stuff. Like, that's up to your Genji to try and put the pressure on, not let her have that angle for free, force that Suzu out, force that Swift step. Make her play back with her team where she can't have these angles, where she doesn't have easy access to get some of these big kunais. And on the other side, like, you want to be playing in a way where you can have Instinct set up on those angles, where she can actually be the one putting out that similar level of pressure. But it's just never happening because Timeless Aurora are just never in a good spot.
Yeah, just aren't able to try and find that. Colosseo is where they're going to attempt to make it happen. This could be another area where we see Luau go back over onto the Tracer. The only real variability we're seeing at the moment in the compositions. Of course, there could be some emergency buttons which could be pressed, especially by Timeless Aurora, who thus far are struggling in the mirror fairly heavily. The survivability of Laser, something that's often on my mind, but a lot of that comes from just the pressure that comes onto the backline Kiriko. Instinct, she's constantly worrying about what Luau can do.
Yeah, and again, like, you know, I do want to highlight the story of Timeless Aurora, because a lot of these players, like we said, are you know, Calling All Heroes rising champions from Lava Lilies Rising. The likes of Soup, Naku, Taiko as well, who we haven't seen come off the bench. Maybe we will see her, maybe not. It is lower bracket, so if we don't see her now, I doubt we'll be seeing very much of her at all the rest of this tournament cycle. You know, the skill gap between Rising and Challenger Series is kind of a big one, and I think that Timeless Aurora have successfully bridged it, but it's champions, right? Everyone's coming with their A game. Everyone's been scrimming this Hazard meta pretty much as soon as it became apparent that he was going to be the staple of this tournament. And, you know, Timeless Aurora, they you know, formed kind of late, had to go through LCQ, haven't had as much time to gel as T2 Esports Olympians, who have been playing for a couple majors together, are starting to come into the fold and just kind of feel like they have a better grasp on what they can get away with within these bounds.
Yeah, T2 Esports Olympians, the cohesiveness of this roster does mean that they can adapt to meta changes rather quickly. And of course, the meta changed rather rapidly once Hazard came out. In Major 3, despite Hazard being available, he wasn't part of our competitive rule set, and so we didn't see any Hazard play. We were stuck still in the Mauga zone, as so many others were. T2 Esports Olympians, I don't know if I want to believe in it, but we have thus far already seen a touch of Winston. On the other side, Timeless Aurora, maybe they need to bring out something different. Like, they can rely on the meta, but thus far, the meta has not served them well.
I don't know if I like this, but I also don't hate this. I mean, like, you don't really have any other opportunities to try and win this Hazard mirror outright. Like, I feel like you're just never going to get the better of it. So trying something new, a double sniper composition, could actually work out, but you're putting a lot of pressure onto Soup to be able to find these shots, because I think Luau, like, once you get that Genji in close, that Widow is going to have a tough time, especially if the Hazard gets early access there, because that is a threat that you can't just ignore.
All right, a lot more healing's going to be coming out of his Juno, though. You said you'd heard tales of a Juno previously, and maybe its lack of success in current meta. Oh my goodness, good accretion there onto Fiersic. That's going to require a little bit of attention from the healers. Luau in the meanwhile, not getting much attention in the back. Hasn't taken much damage, but is dealing plenty of it. Oh, this squishy backline. The underbelly has been found. The crit spot has been noted. And the Zelda monster has been slain. Just fire your boomerang at the red bit.
Yeah, this is one of those things, right? Like, you can tell from the way Timeless Aurora are playing this composition that this is not plan A. Like, their backline was so split there that Luau had easy access to Fabi, and Instinct was just not there to peel. Like, a Brig and a Juno need to be playing together, because the Brig is Juno's entire survivability. Like, without that, she is just mincemeat for any sort of flanker, and Luau is happy to have themselves a nice helping.
Listening to those heals. Labutans. I've got an ear out. Luau does as well. Soup seems to have gone up to the high ground. It's already... Oh, nice Venom Mine here. Luau gets caught. Probably not going to be punished here, but of course this will buy a little bit more space and time for Soup as they're aware of the location of Luau. Someone's got to get their feet on the bot, though. This barricade needs to be stopped before the checkpoint can be granted and give over that forward spawn. A nice TP away there. Good awareness coming through from Natnif. She knows that Soup wanted that angle, but with a high ground advantage here, T2 Esports Olympians should still be able to manufacture themselves a fight. A player still has to stay on the low ground. Oh, it's going to be a rush onto them. Good two-play right there. Fiersic puts down the downpour. Hasn't grabbed that much, though. Still, Instinct and Fabi have been fallen elsewhere. Kasumi, once again, returning to their violent roots. And Laser is more than happy to show them what they know.
That should still be the checkpoint for T2 Esports, but like Timeless Aurora, Soup swaps off of the Widowmaker, which is kind of awkward because like I feel like this is where you would have a good advantage with the Widowmaker's sightlines here. I mean, you already kind of gave it up on that point there, but so far like this composition for Timeless Aurora, like I'm not seeing it. Like I don't know that I really believe in the Juno. I'm sorry, Sabrina. I've never tried that one, and at this point I don't think I will.
Well, we'll see how it goes. Up into the air. That's going to be a less than ideal popping of the Sojourn. Still Naku brings out a bunch of rails. Fiersic in the way. The damage reduction isn't what it used to be. And with a leveraging of the ultimates earned for Timeless Aurora, this should be at least a slight recapture. Going up against these forward spawns, though, means that T2 Esports Olympians can step up fast.
Yeah, but Timeless Aurora needs to like kind of keep their confidence up off of that fight. Like they can't get overly confident or overly confident. They need to be competent. They can't get overly confident and try and overstay their welcome. They also can't overextend and like just give free access to the backline because Luau has a blade and once again is going to be staring daggers into Fabi right now.
Nagas stared. Blade yet to be drawn. Going up against that rally, it's a huge risk. 16 HP, grabs the sound barrier and a mini, but a lot of this barrier is going to be gone before Luau can even find himself some combat. Instead uses Fiersic's distraction in order to get a kill onto Naku. And Timeless Aurora once again sent running for the hills as Laser is unfortunately going to be standing alone. Just going to have to watch Fabi fall. I'm sorry, there's nothing I could do for you, little one.
I'm sorry. You get a fair bit of like bot progress off of that, and you know you're gonna at least temporarily break that forward spawn for T2, but they're gonna have everybody all regrouped and back up. But Timeless Aurora, like you kind of now that the bot is where it is now, have to leverage this high ground. That is what this Sigma poke comp is going to be best at. So they also have to leverage this orbital ray. That's what you play the Juno for, and here we go.
The Christian doesn't connect. Luau super low. Didn't know where the bomb was, but it was right on your body, son. Soup delivered. Call that one an Instacart.
Yeah, we're gonna pop the overclock here though, is them. A Sigma shield right in the face there.
All right, them doesn't want to fire into the kinetic grasp that much. Instead, just waits for Laser to fade away at the hands of both these supports. Fiersic attempts to disengage. But for now, plenty of healing, plenty of care, and lots of love as it's going to be likely more progress on the barricade here.
You're gonna have the Kitsune Rush and the Dragon Blade to try and get some more bot progress here going up against Soup swapping to the Mei. Interesting. I don't know about the Mei in this meta, because like you're not gonna be able to section the hazard off effectively. He has more than enough damage to just break the wall, if not climb right over it. Like, I kind of feel like that is another one of those fictional hazard counters.
Fictional hazard counter going up against very real Blade. Luau is just, there are no players here though. Everyone's speed boosting away. Fiersic in the back line, might be a touch overextended, far away from their supports, but has the cover of the block to try and make it happen. She's able to get out. There it is. The fictional hazard counter has arrived, and here's another very real one. Slammed down to the ground, doesn't even make it though. Super's faster than a speeding lot of gravity. And with a huge investment of both the Overclock and Gravitic Flux, Timeless Aurora finally have themselves a victory.
So while the wall doesn't like completely section off Fiersic enough, it does at the very least kind of force that hazard into a situation where suddenly he's pinned down and you can actually get that Gravitic Flux outright. Turns out the very real counter to hazard is teamwork, as all 4 members of Timeless Aurora, or at least 4 members of them, do all collectively work together to secure that kill. And it's enough to stave off the pressure, but they need to try and keep this forward momentum, and they only have a rally to do it.
Hey them, for now, backing off, supporting, or rather sieging this rally that came through from Instinct. She's got a big old shield to try and play with, and finally managed to find Kasu. Oh, that's an agent! What a play from Laser! A Hypersphere delivered at the most critical moment, and Sue's managed to find Fiersic elsewhere. They then will stand against the crowd alone. It might be non-binary, but all I see is one player standing in the way. They don't stand for
And now
long.
they're 0.
And now they are 0. Oh,
And now they are
we
0.
are the worst.
Let's move.
Or the best, depending on who you ask. Timeless Aurora have the best ultimate in the game, though. Still, they have that orbital ray, and this is what they need to do. Now that they have some momentum, they need to use it to keep it up, and Fabi's gonna pop it right here.
Already, the Ray coming through. Can you find the unmirrored Ray win? It feels like it's been forever since we've seen a Rush team just dominate with the Ray, but T2 Esports Olympians, they simply fade into the background. They go into their hiding spots and re-emerge later. Wow, a good delivery that for them there, right onto the cut at the final moment to, I believe, stop a Cat from coming through. What pathing from them?
Yeah, I mean, that should be enough to stop the checkpoint. I can't actually tell. Yeah, no, it does look like they didn't get that successfully, did Timeless Aurora, which does have to sting, but I mean, again, like, you've managed to at least make it so that these fights are no longer happening right at your front door, so you don't have to fight it on the home front. You have a Blizzard and a Gravitic Flux that you can hopefully combo together. Once again, you kind of have to get the hazard in a situation where you can pin him down to get this combo off successfully, and a rock to the face could do it, but goes a little wide.
Can they dodge away? No. Fiersic not fast enough. Can the healing be delivered? He's just up too high. The rest of the team can't get up there. Natnif just disengaged instead. We're just going to call it right here. Luau's in the back, though.
Yeah, Luau did not disengage. Luau was still very firmly in the back line, and no one seems to know. Is he going to be able to get an assassination here? Everyone's played pretty far up, and he's crouched walking very slowly. He'll be there within the next millennia, I'm sure, and at that point, Fabi will be very aware, but the fight's already happening on the point here.
All right, out comes the Blizzard. Seems like for now, no one's really being frozen up. The downpour sticks multiple players in place. And Luau, when you've activated my trap card, I had my Genji face down in defense mode, but I was going up against plenty of damage. Fiersic just brings up the guard, and Laser is slowly staggered out. This could be a stagger here onto Instinct. She does manage to take down Natnif before being slain, and the bot was a little bit far afield, so progress is not going to be forthcoming rather quickly.
Yeah, so like, because there was no one contesting the bot, and the bot is like just kind of chilling over there by the barricade the whole time, again, like, this next fight is not going to be happening on Timeless Aurora's home front. They are going to have both support ultimates and an overclock to try and push this one. They're also going to have the high ground advantage to make better use of the overclock, so even when they then builds up to theirs, they're not going to have the best angles to try and make it stick.
It's going to be difficult. Luau, the Blade right now, maybe just disengage away from this beam. The damage from Naku is too much to bear when boosted up by orbital rays. A satellite in orbit shines bright upon Timeless Aurora in what could be their final map of the tournament.
But it's so smart to disengage here from T2. They just can't get staggered here. Fiersic is so low. Laser confirms that kill. That's absolutely massive. So that's going to be the checkpoint for Timeless Aurora. And they needed that because the disengage from T2, when they saw that orbital ray and that overclock come out, to get out with only one casualty and make that 2 once Fiersic falls, is so good for them because they have both DPS ults and a sound barrier coming up, and they have only a rally to stop them.
All of the resources are available. The shield goes wide mode here from Instinct. Naku's already down. Luau looks for victims. Wants Soup, finds Soup, drinks up the competition. And yes, Instinct, she had a big old shield, but now she's got no friends to play with. Shurikens find pay dirt. And Timeless Aurora are knocked from the competition as T2 Esports Olympians get one step further up the pedestal.
Welcome to the big leagues, Timeless Aurora, say T2, and I mean, they do not play nicely at all. I mean, Fear 6 on the Hazard, showing them how it's done, showing Laser how it's done. Again, like, I've seen some confident Hazard play out of Laser in the past, like in LCQ. She was definitely a standout for this team, but overall seems to be a non-factor. Forced to swap over onto the Sigma, and I did actually like the look of the Sigma composition for a while there from Timeless Aurora, but there is a reason Hazard is meta. There is a reason why he is the mainstay. It is his lethality and his survivability, something that Sigma, even with a poke composition, just cannot match on most maps. On Havana, maybe you get away with that, but not on Colosseo.
Yeah, maybe Havana would have been a better map pick here to try and leverage this, but I think at this point it was just Timeless Aurora trying to find some manner of purchase and like lean into what the players were better at compared to just slaving to the meta, you know? Maybe in a different world where Timeless Aurora really were able to kind of start off the series utilizing these picks, it could have gone a bit differently, but on the same side, it may have given T2 Esports Olympians more time to try and acclimate themselves to going against an off-meta composition. It's actually super important, by the way. Them getting this touch here forced the like butt scratch pause later on when T2 really had themselves some momentum and forced T2 to stay in a much more vulnerable position on that low ground.
Yeah, it's a lot of these little things kind of adding up. Like, it's a death by 1,000 cuts that T2 are just able to take advantage of, and Timeless Aurora aren't able to recover from. And unfortunately, yeah, that is an elimination. That is our first casualty of the tournament, Timeless Aurora. We have to say goodbye. Although I do also want to say that I feel that they should be proud of themselves because Timeless still, it's a good way to carry on the Timeless namesake. This team still stands for very much so what Timeless has stood for in the past, which is elevating some of these lower tiers, the tier 2, tier 3 players into prevalence, giving some of these previous Calling All Heroes rising players and some other members of the community a chance to come together and make it to championships and put on a show. And unfortunately, they were up against a very game T2 Esports Olympians who are also showing us just what EU Overwatch has to offer within these marginalized gender spaces.
Yeah, huge respect out to Timeless Org and the players who stepped up from Calling All Heroes rising where they were, the winners of the grand finals over in Major 3. And I think that there's definitely a lot to be gained from participating, even if you are one of the first teams to go out. For T2, though, the story continues. We're out of bookmarks, though. There's no more saving and reloading. We're not gonna welcome to the store. Quick save on that one. It is up against the wall now in every single fight for T2 Olympians.
Yeah, but I imagine they're pretty tired and want to get to sleep really quickly, so we're going to have a sleepy interview from them from the other side of this break, and then they can either have their morning tea or, you know, go to sleep. Because what's the time check over there in the EU now? It's
It is currently 4:20 here in the UK. No comment.
No comment. Almost 5 a.m. Wow. Well, unfortunately, we are all out of game to play today in the beginning of the Calling All Heroes Champs tournament, but we do have one more treat for you. We have an interview with Fiersic from the side of T2 Esports Olympians. I mean, this has been a pretty fun day. Pretty fun day. For you guys, I imagine a pretty fun night. Yeah, you got like sleepy, blurry vision. That's how I get when it's like 5 a.m. for me too.
My camera is kind of lacking. Sorry. It's 5:30 in the morning, so it's kind of getting late.
Camera might be lacking, but your hazard play certainly wasn't. How did you guys as a team handle the meta transition from the Malga meta, where I don't think you did incredibly well in Major 3, if I remember correctly, to now where you're looking a lot better?
So the Malga actually really fitted us. I think the Malga was actually one of our better comps. I think the hazard is kind of a bit struggly because you kind of need to like 5-man int on everyone, and it's like it's kind of getting not really good together. I think overall it's okay. I think we beat the like lower tier teams, but I think if we go against like better teams, it's gonna be harder. But we'll see.
Yeah, we will see indeed, as there will definitely be more challenges for you guys, and one of them I have to imagine does have to be like playing this late at night. What's it like trying to keep the spirits up and keep everybody high energy to get these W's when it's like 3, 4, 5 in the morning?
I don't know. I'm just drinking monsters, and that's it.
I'll drink to that. Cheers. Let's go.
But nah. Yeah, I think we kind of had a down phase after the first game after Oyas, and then just all like separated a bit and like walked a bit, and like I, for example, like watched a bit of TikTok and just to calm down. And yeah, I think it's just I think everyone is professional here, and we all like can get up late to this hour, so we're all like chilling.
Alongside like your personal chillings, watching some shorts and whatnot, did you guys have like a cursory conversation about what went wrong in the first game and then try to augment your play for the second, or did you kind of like just trust what you'd done in scrims, but like, okay, lower bracket, we're gonna do a lot better?
Yeah, we had a bit of a VOD with our coach Shredder, the GOAT, who couldn't be there today, but I think overall yeah, we were just preparing a bit, and we're happy that we got to the next round now. But I think we could have like won against Oyas as well. So I'm like a bit down. I was a bit down, but yeah, I think we're happy to be here now and just to continue on playing tomorrow. And yeah, we'll see.
I mean, I think against a team like Oyas, it's very possible that you may have gotten like out EU Overwatched, because I know they like to play a lot of like the silly things that EU is kind of known for. As one of like the main like EU teams, do you kind of feel like there's any sort of pressure for you guys to represent your part of this this Calling All Heroes community? Because a lot of the action is usually happening over here in NA. There's only a couple of you guys over in EU that are really, you know, holding that banner down for your whole region.
I wanted to actually put out the Reinhardt on Colosseo, but my team said no.
I saw the gears turning, and I wanted to see it too.
Unfortunately, my team said no, and we wanted to like finish it off on the hazard. But I think overall, yeah, we're happy to be here. Just be an EU team to play here. It's like difficult right now because of times, but I think we do a fair share, and we just continue on doing this. And yeah.
Give you a chance to earn some brownie points here with your team. Did you have a personal MVP on your team for that last game?
Don't want to say myself because I died like 2 times this entire.
That's not how you get brownie points.
But I give some credits to Kazumi for Ajaxing the last map. That's a good play.
One of the most impressive.
But no, I think overall, Netnef's been holding me down quite a bit, so I would give it to Netnef.
All right, well, you guys are still continuing a lower bracket run, and I want to know, for your perspective, like, how far do you think this run goes? Do you think you have a chance at making it into top 8, top 4, maybe even, you know, make a complete salty run back, see you in grand finals? Is that a possibility? How are you feeling about your chances?
I mean, tomorrow we already know that we're gonna play against Nadokado, so I think this is a doable matchup. if we keep it together and play our game. But yeah, I think after that it's gonna be. I mean, the next matchup could be pretty easy because I think it's gonna be. I'm not sure yet, but either Shikigami versus someone else or something. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. But I think this matchup could be doable. But then afterwards, I think we'll struggle against like the top like 3 or 4 teams. It's gonna be hard.
Oh, we'll be
What
ready.
I'm hearing is like top 5, like because you'll struggle as the top 3 or 4, but you'll make it there.
We'll be fine.
Yeah, get a nice 5th on Liquipedia, get that blue name going. We believe in you. Thank you so much for joining us, Fiercing. Gotta get that blue name. It's the most important thing.
Yeah.
If nothing else, like...
Very important. Very important. Get the page.
I have no doubt that they'll get there. I think, they'll get those Liquipedia notoriety points. We probably have a couple editors in chat that are already, like, just itching to try and put Fiercing's name and the rest of T2 in the history books, but unfortunately, that's also where this is going to be. I mean, T2 look good, by the way, and chat, if you want to look good, I have just the thing for you. There is some Calling All Heroes Radiant merch that you can score. If you go to the QR code there, give that a scan, and you can look as fly as T2 Esports Olympians do, and you too can make a salty run back through the entire lower bracket of Calling All Heroes champions.
I reckon I'd pop off in that crop top.
I think you would too. Which one, the Mercy Cat or the sweater?
I'm more of a sweater guy. I think the crop sweater, actually. The Mercy Cat might be... I don't know. Do you think I've got big Mercy main energy?
No, not necessarily. Like, I can see you doing, like, a blue beam or 2 on the side, but, like, I think for the most part, you kind of give, like... You give kind of, like, Bumper Reinhardt energy.
Oh, I mean, accurate. My success rate is a lot lower than Bumper's, and Bumper was already about 40%, so not ideal.
You know what? A good solid it's better than 0%. All right, at least it works sometimes.
That's true. You're always keeping me grounded, Subi. And you know what else? Make sure that you can so that you can stay separated from the ground. Our sponsors over at Blacklight and our lovely bracket. Here we go. Nightmare Eclipse dropping a map actually to Who Is Now Ricardo. That's quite impressive. And it seems like all of our upper bracket games right now are kind of going the distance. Azathoth taking their time against Fable, dropping a map there. Valentine versus Shikigami still going on. And Aryas ahead again against Queen's Gambit.
That's interesting. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here in this quarterfinal. Unfortunately, these are games that are all playing out right now that we likely won't get to see the ending of, but Aryas being ahead of Queen's Gambit, like I said, like Aryas in a micro-heavy meta like this could be really, really scary. Like, it makes sense that they would beat a team like T2, but to be that far ahead of Queen's Gambit, that's kind of scary. Like, you also have Shikigami taking a map off the number 2 seed in Valentine, so I gotta imagine, like, Fifi is still popping off even this late into the evening. Azathoth, like you said, taking their time against Fable. Tomorrow, there's going to be a matchup where you've got Nightmare Eclipse going up against Azathoth. That is going to be a banger. But we also have some more bangers that are going to be happening down here in the lower bracket as well.
Yeah, unfortunately for Amanatsu, they are going to be our other team exiting on day 1, going down 3-0 against Moth Genesis, earning their place deeper into our bracket here. However, Who Is Now Ricardo versus T2 Esports Olympians definitely going to be one to watch, and Fable versus Hypnos Isolus is going to be an incredibly exciting matchup.
Yeah, that's one is going to be really, really exciting because we saw a lot of great things that came out from Hypnos Isolus, even though they end up falling to Shikigami. There's a lot of potential on that roster, and we're always seeing Fable in these kind of like underdog situations, and once again, they're finding themselves trying to make a run through the lower bracket. I think that one's going to be a lot of fun. I think there's also a lot of potential for some fun up in the upper side of that lower bracket, the upper lower bracket. Yeah, we got Moth Genesis, our other LCQ team, making a pretty decent run there. See how long maybe they can try and make it into the evening there.
Yeah, it's going to be an incredibly exciting weekend of action here at Calling All Heroes. The championship has only just begun. Make sure to check out our wonderful sponsors over at Blacklight for the top tier gaming chairs that you need to keep your performance on top of the world. And from me and CB, this is about it, Seebs.
Yeah, unfortunately. And also, unfortunately, for those of you who didn't complete your drops, yeah, this is the end. But we do have 3 more days of action, so you can always come back for the rest of the weekend and be sure to go farm up those drops a little bit more, get yourself the rest of the way to that Monarch venture. And yeah, here's the schedule for the rest of the weekend. We will be seeing you tomorrow, like you said, though. That's going to be the end for you and I. But tomorrow we have another goated duo that I think is going to be coming in to take you through the action. And I'll be joining you guys later on in the weekend as well. But it has been a pleasure getting to cast with you again, Leg Day. Little peek behind the curtain, by the way. Leg Day was kind of my mentor when I started coming up in casting. Did my first VOD review with him and said, like, my goal is to cast Calling All Heroes. And I didn't actually think that it would be like I get to do it with him. And like, now that's all come to fruition. Here we are.
Well, I mean, I'm up on prediction by saying that you definitely make it here. Hey,
Yeah?
that's pretty good.
Better success rate than your Reinhardt. I'll take it.
Oh, you. See you tomorrow. Later, guys.